Okay, I have 6:30, so we'll go ahead and get the meeting started. So we'll do the roll call.
Holly Anderson. Here. Colton Martin.
Here.
Sean Mayfield.
Here.
Max Coy.
Here.
John Valencourt.
Here.
Bert Wright.
Present. All right. So we'll go on to, let's go ahead and do the pledge of allegiance now. Over the approval of the agenda. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so with that, we'll go on to the approval of the agenda. And I actually have a couple of things I'd like to add to the agenda under old business. If we can add item C, ARDA HUD report. I'll give you guys the report on that. And then item D, the job posting that's up for our position that's open. And then E, updates on city work on city facilities.
D, open position.
Yeah, D, job posting. E, update on city facility work.
D, E.
Yep. Is that okay with everyone?
Make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So we'll go on to public input. I think we have Debbie was wanting to talk, so we'll let her have her 2 minutes up here.
Okay. It is not on the agenda, but I want everybody to be aware that Northwest Arkansas BMX, it's a bicycle racing group, wants to come to Goshen and build this track for the kids to race on. I don't know where their funding will come from. I did my usual speak my mind on social media, and I did get a reply from someone who wants to remain anonymous. The reason BMX is looking for a place for a track is because they failed to fulfill their obligations with the city of Lowell. They didn't pay the rider fees they were due to pay and didn't keep the area up to park standards. I believe in BMX and community support of a great family sport, but I don't believe in the way Northwest Arkansas BMX does things. If you do share this information, please keep me anonymous, as I've received attacks from this group in the past. And this is someone who is active in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Missouri with BMX. It would be great for the kids to have a place to race their bicycles, but y'all need to do your due diligence when they confront you with it, so we're not left holding the bag and we don't have somebody else's mess to clean up.
When you say BMX, is this dirt bike?
Yeah.
Okay. And is there a proposed site that they want to have there?
Yeah, that 5 acres up there by me,
It was on Facebook.
Oh,
or the big park,
oh, they're wanting to use city park property to do it.
anywhere that somebody will give them 5 acres.
Okay. I wasn't aware.
I saw part of the post and it sounded like they were putting out feelers for somebody, like you said, that was willing to let them pile some dirt up. And it's,
So Debbie, one quick question, and I appreciate the anonymity that you asked for, whoever told you this. Is that's facts, or that's just what someone put to Facebook about them not paying and not keeping it up? Okay, thank you.
is this BMX for bicycles or is it for motor bicycles? Okay.
That was my
Because you got
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a difference.
Well, I guess we'll just have it on our radar to be before if it comes up. Thank you, Debbie.
thanks, Deb.
Any other public input or comments before we start? No, all right, I see none. So, we'll go on to, the financial report, I guess is next. Oh, no, the minutes, sorry. So the minutes, have you guys had a chance to look over those? Oh,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
One add if we could, Marge, after Chief Travis gave his police report, can you just ask that I asked to have some tracking and trending data,
Okay.
and he did that, so I just want to give him due credit for that. Thank you.
So we have a
Then we
motion,
can approve it with the amendment that was made.
we can?
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
so we have a motion
to approve.
and a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of the financial report. The financial report is of March 29th, 2024. General fund was $684,563.63. Street fund was $274,916.18. The police Act 988 fund was $3,315.08. Questions about it? Yeah.
No questions. But we have a March 5th to approve.
Oh, on the minutes, you're right. Let me go back to that.
No, the March 5th is planning.
That's the planning.
That's
It's already been
planning. We
approved.
don't approve those.
Oh,
March 5th,
okay.
those
Those
are
are
in
in
there.
there.
Those are done.
Those are in there for you to review,
Those are for you
just
to
as
read.
the council wanted to review the minutes.
Yeah.
They're there and ready. So,
Sorry.
that's okay. So, any questions about the financial report from the public? No, okay.
Motion to approve?
Second.
So the motion and a second to approve the financial report. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. So we'll go on to the reports, the police department report. I'm gonna, I think I'm gonna pull up the graph. Well, this is one graph. Let me pull up the other graph. So this is the very big graph. That's the big graph.
That's the
This is
graph
the
that-
detailed graph of all the
Right.
smaller calls. But let me pull up the big calls. So, is it this?
It's
Yeah.
the third one. Yep.
That's the actual number.
Oh, those are the numbers. Let me get the graph pulled up. Oh, I think she put it under this.
Tail end of that.
That's the tail end of the first one, right?
And I want to give some credit to Ricky too, because she is the one, I pulled all the numbers and she helped me make the graphs. So,
This is what Birch was asking for last meeting, so that you guys can look and see the comparisons between years.
Yeah.
So the ledger at the bottom, you've got blue, it's 2021, and the orange is 2022, and then green is 2023.
so for the month of March, we had 179 calls for service. We had 34 total charges, 2 criminal, 2 incident reports, 32 moving violations, and 71 warnings. On that graph that I showed you, if you will look at the traffic stops, I kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of basically the traffic stuff. I know in 22 we had 700 and something traffic stops. In 23 we had 994, and this year we're only 3 months in, and we already have. In just the 3 months that we have right now, we're already up to 326 traffic stops in 3 months. So the traffic is definitely picking up, especially the stops. We are already on, with the calls for service, if you look at them as well, the totals, we're already on par. In these 3 months, we've already had 508 calls for service. So we're well going to exceed the calls for service that we had last year, or the year. So, one of the things that I want to point out in the graphs, I know it kind of looks like our stuff's going down in some of those categories. A lot of that is going to be because we do have such a higher police presence that it's actually stopping some of that stuff. There are there's some stuff that we do that hasn't been called out as well. Like if somebody comes to the PD, wants to file a report, stuff like that, we don't call county and say, hey, we're doing this. So that's not in there either. I just want to give you guys a heads up on that.
So Chief, thank you, and Ricky, thanks for putting it together. One comment on the spreadsheet that listed the actual data we could just add next time a cumulative total, so we know how much we've done
For sure.
through the last 3 years. Thank you. Very well done. I appreciate it.
There was also something else I wanted to discuss with you guys that I think I might have brought up. I know me and Russell have talked about it, but the 2 new units that we have, the 2 trucks, so they are governed. They were bought from the state bid as law enforcement units, but they're governed at 108 miles an hour. So what I'm asking for is you guys let us void the warranty on those so that we can put new PCMs on them, so that we can get those speeds adjusted. So Raul got into a pursuit. Springdale lost a guy. He picked him up. They got all the way to the interstate, and at the interstate, the guy just walked off with it. Luckily for us, Fayetteville had 1 unit. They don't pursue, but they kind of tailed the guy until Springdale could catch up. They were at speeds over 124 miles an hour. So I'm asking for you guys, here's my theory on that. If that had been a kidnapping victim and Springdale couldn't have caught up, he'd have never caught him. They got away scot-free with somebody's kid. I'm not okay with that.
Is that, you're saying the 2 trucks, are you saying
Correct.
like your truck?
The 2 newest trucks.
Yeah, my truck and Doug's truck.
Yeah.
Manny's truck is out of warranty, so I can do it to it anyway, and I will. But the 2 new trucks, see, state has to do the same thing. When they get their units, they automatically void the warranties.
How old are those
And
2 new ones? Sorry, Joe.
We bought them last year.
So
The warranties on them are 35,000 miles. Mine is sitting at 11,000 right now, and I think Doug's is right about the same.
So it voids bumper to bumper, it voids transmit, everything.
Everything.
And what's the cost to do that, Jason?
The PCMs, $600 a unit for us to do that.
How much longer we got with yours?
Mine's got 11,000 miles.
25,000 miles.
So about
You
25,000.
just got that one last year?
Yes,
The 2 new units
January.
we bought last year.
January of last year.
What's the
I
warranty
thought
we
you
have
said-
on it? So bumper to bumper for 36,
Bumper to bumper, 35.
35? You know, I'm the biggest supporter of the police. I just trying to think financially.
We had this discussion earlier in the year, and I said, I don't want to avoid the warranty, but I do see where he's coming from. And, you know, the likelihood that we're going to use the warranty, I don't know. I mean, you know, you take a risk one way or the other. The question is, if it's your kid in the car during the pursuit.
But this was not a kidnapping.
No, thank goodness. But it was just as bad. I mean, he was DWI, drugs,
Oh, yeah.
so could have hit somebody, killed somebody. That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with it.
So how long,
So it'd probably be under warranty for close to 1.5, 2 years or more.
no, but how long will we have these vehicles?
Realistically, probably 3 more years.
But to get to that kind of speed. you're
That
having to
was-
get out
that
of our
was-
area, right? I mean,
Oh, no.
No.
No, no. The officer that wrecked out down here at the bridge, he was at 120. Our old units would do 140. So.
So
It's an issue that we're having anyway. I talked to Craig Stout with Greenland. They just bought brand new units, and he told me after I talked to him today, he's like, we haven't even tested them. So he's having one of his officers tonight at about 2 a.m. to the interstate and open it up to make sure that we're going on the road. And I called Dodge to find out why they sold us a unit that won't go past that speed. And I said, that's just how they are right now. If we'd have bought a 6-cylinder,
That's the other thing.
it wouldn't have been governed.
Are not
But for
governed.
some reason, the Hemis are governed. The bigger motor is governed.
Well, it's all because they had kids that stole them and wrecked and died and
Yes,
got sued.
they could have done that in a 6-cylinder.
So
But it was a Hemi. I remember big deal about it whenever it happened.
I don't
Our next
remember,
Our next units won't have Hemis on. They'll be 6-cylinder.
Yeah.
I didn't remember getting those new last year for the pickups. I was thinking the SUVs, okay?
We had switched to
We couldn't
pickups.
get the SUVs and the Hemis, that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah. Because if I had realized that at the time, I would not have agreed to wait until we get new vehicles to restripe.
You think about finances and what's somebody's life worth, what's the kidnapping victim's life worth, and to me, that's worth more than any potential cost we're gonna incur by winning the warranty.
So you're looking at 3 vehicles?
No,
Two.
two.
Just 2
Just two.
for
Just the two
$1,200.
now.
Yeah,
The warranty's already out on the other two.
$1,200.
yeah.
That's
Well, those 1,200 to retrofit it, but
Yeah.
if you drop a transmission or drop an engine,
Right.
I understand.
$7,000, but yeah, I don't know that, I know what those things cost, or, you can get $10,000 repair bill very quickly on one of those, and I not want to be facing the people that, didn't have the rescue done because we were like, well, we don't have to pay out $10,000,
Yeah.
for a potential
potential.
was-
problem.
What was did we have a unit repaired in Elkins for $5,000 at the body shop?
Oh, that was the old,
That was an R.
the old
That was
Explorer,
the old Explorer.
and that was
that was
under
one of our-
insurance. It was an insurance claim that was filed. So, because it had damage that was done on the side of it, so we got it fixed.
so Jason, for 17 miles an hour for each of those, that's cheap,
A little bit more than 17 miles an hour.
and so there's no limit.
Oh, it'll be limited to what the motor can do. They'll do about 140.
So that's cheap, that's what you're asking, that's your recommendation.
Yes.
I support you.
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
Second. Okay, we have a motion to approve voiding the warranty in a second. Any public comment before we vote? All right, no public comment, and we'll go ahead and take it to a vote. All those in favor? All right.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Jason, one thing before, I noticed we're at budget for your ammo,
We buy that at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So we don't have to buy them.
but you got enough for training, you got enough to, okay.
Yep,
I checked all that.
Yeah,
we
make sure we have
had that
enough.
discussion.
On that note, we are actually shooting more than most departments do, and our scores are showing.
Good.
So,
You can sell some of that ammo for a profit one of these days.
no, but it's one of those deals. We're also starting to do a lot more classes. I have my instructors, Jesse has his, and so does Doug. Huntsville actually approached us and asked us to teach about 3 or 4 classes to them. One of them being firearms instructor. So it's paying off. Us
Awesome.
being able to shoot as much as we are. We're a lot more proficient than we used to be.
Okay,
Is there any plans, Jason, for a department to do concealed carry classes?
That is something that we have been considering, yes. Jesse is actually in the process of getting his instructor license. There's a lot more to it than we originally thought. So, but yes, that's one of the things that they're hoping to be able to offer before too long. We've also been in talks about doing some kind of shooting academy.
Cool.
How that works out. Any other questions?
Thank you,
Thank
Chief.
you.
no,
Thank you.
thanks, Jason.
And for everybody out there, you guys need to know these officers are amazing and they do a great job. So I really appreciate the work they do. All right, so we'll move on to our street report. Let me pull that up. I'll do that. So the street report, city parks, they started mowing the park, spring, everything's in bloom. Picked up trash in the city park, started spraying the invasive weeds at the park with the new sprayer that they got for the ATV. They started brush hogging some areas in the lower entrance off 45, the main park. And then on the road, they removed 5 truckloads of brush, cutting off Spring Park Lane. There's some pictures to follow here. Fallen branches from roads after the storm, replaced and relocated 5 street signs. Have sections to the road where they're going to need repair, trash pickup, set up the barrels and cones to help divert where traffic was driving over the septic lines of Anderson's. gas station because of the road work. They've installed, so one of the things that happened, we found out our septic system wasn't working, so we've been diverting water and digging French drains over the last 2 weeks. So I got my excavator out, we went down there, we got a bid on what the cost would have been for us to have it hired done. We spent a total of about $1,200 on all of the gravel, all of the drain pipe, everything. The bid was for $8,400. So saved a significant amount, but our septic lines, we have a lot of water intrusion behind City Hall, and a lot of it's groundwater that comes up, and there's actually a spring that was coming up through the asphalt behind the fire station. So we've diverted that on a 4-inch pipe, and it runs about a third of the way full of that 4-inch pipe of water continually since we've diverted it.
You think that's was probably caused by us putting those two buildings back there?
No, it has nothing to do with it. It's not even.
I think that area's always been wet.
Yeah, this has been a problem for a very, very long time with that bubbling up back there. I actually talked to the fire department about it, some of the guys there, because I asked them, how long has it been bubbling up? They said a long time, 3, 4, 5 years in that area. And so, you know, it looks like it's just rainwater or groundwater that comes up, but it's a pretty good spring that comes up back there. We thought it was maybe a water line from Fayetteville, and we had Fayetteville come out. It's not a water line either. So, and then we built the French drain to divert that water and get it away. One of the issues we were having is that our, and I'll talk a little bit more about it later, but our septic system, because it wasn't functioning, the pump wasn't pumping to the D-box. But part of the problem also is that the reason we think the pump probably burned out is because so much groundwater intrusion into the holding tank where that gray water is supposed to be pumped out. So there was groundwater running in there. So, you know, that was
Overwhelmed
the pump burned out and it wasn't working. So our septic system right now is not functional. So we actually had both tanks pumped. So we have 2,000 gallons of septic that we can wait to fill up. So it'll take us probably 2-3 months to fill that before we need to be pumped again. But in the meantime, we're gonna have to, you know, get that fixed. And so we've had 3 different septic agencies out looking at it to decide what's the next steps on how to fix it. So now we have a plan. So
Thanks for doing that.
That's not, so you have to pump there? It's not gravity like most?
it's not gravity. No, because our lateral lines are actually higher than our septic tanks.
Oh.
And so the gray water, so the tank that was installed in 2000, which we finally found who installed it when it was installed, our city tank flows over to the tank for the fire department, and then it flows from there out of a 1,000-gallon tank into a 250-gallon holding tank. And then that pump just pumps gray water to the D-box, which is up the hill. And all of our lateral lines are on that hill behind City Hall. So the lateral lines are fine. The D-box had to be cleaned out because there's a bunch of dirt and gravel in it, but that's all been taken care of, so that's all been done. And the reason we wanted to get that drain put in primarily behind the fire station is because, you know, we're planning to have that re-asphalted because we've got to replace that culvert because the plastic culvert flexes with the vehicles driving over it. We've got to replace it with concrete. But we wanted to get that water diverted so that when we do re-asphalt, that it's not going to tear up the new asphalt work. So that's been part of the work that we've been doing. So really, you know, the guys down at the city and I have been doing that for basically 2 weeks. We've been working on that with other things, but and then future projects, we did get all of our street signs in. If you haven't seen them, stop by and look. We'll get them up soon. They look amazing. They're great. They're, you know, 9 inches by 3 feet, so you can see them well. We're putting new posts in so that we can put them on heavier duty posts, and all the streets will have their new street names up there where you can see them clearly. Even there was a question about the gated subdivisions. All the gated subdivisions will have a street sign in front of there as well with their street. I know Waterford does, but some of the other ones don't right now.
We'll take a new one.
Huh?
We'll take a new one.
The new ones, you'll like the new ones. So, and then we've also, there is some concrete that we've put behind the park back here for the picnic tables. So that'll also be set up with picnic tables within the next week. So we'll have those. We're just waiting on the concrete to cure a little bit. And these are just some pictures of things that they, this is the loads of limbs they hauled off. And then this is before, and this is after. You can see the road. Before, you couldn't even really get by without scratching your vehicle. The other big thing is we can keep this ditch cleaned out, and it keeps from having the water run over the top of the road there. And so, we're working with the neighbors in that area to make sure that we're doing that in a nice way to keep the water from.
Is that the one around Albert's house?
Yeah, as you come down towards his house, yeah. All right. Questions? All right. All right, Goshen Fire District report. So it looks like in the month of March, they had 46 total incidents, 13 types. Do you guys want me to read this?
No.
Okay. And then Planning Commission financial report. Lacey's going to do the actual Planning Commission report as the financials. So we had two property owners that we ended up having minor subdivision applications, so $200 each. So that was for the month of March. I'm going to go ahead and do the presentation for the Planning Commission.
Tom was in court, so yes, but I present. So the Board of Zoning Adjustment met last week for 2 driveway variances in Ashford Ranch. Based on Ordinance 151, driveway setbacks are at 20 feet. However, based on Ordinance 190, that adopted the subdivision regulations, the driveway setbacks are at 10 feet. So those 2 variances that went before the Board of Zoning Adjustment from AM Custom Homes were dismissed based on the most recent regulations having been adopted. Those driveway ordinances, I guess, are listed to go before City Council and not before the Board of Zoning. But they're not in front of you tonight because they don't even matter anymore, really. It was my recommendation to the Board of Zoning that the driveways and their variances actually be heard by the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Adjustment to comply with the rest of the subdivision requirements. It's also my recommendation to City Council. The 2 specific variances requests, again, didn't come before you because of Ordinance 190. The Planning Commission overheard and discussed my recommendations to repeal the portion of the subdivision regulations because Charles Browning subdivided land into parcels of 5 acres or more and didn't turn in any infrastructure or utility plans for the city to review. The situation was discussed at the working session as well and is up for public hearing before the Planning Commission next month.
And there was a discussion about an injunction, is that correct?
That was at the working session.
That was the meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
It was.
sorry, you're right, yeah,
Yeah.
injunction, and I think
I
that's
can
been
jump
brought
in.
up at the, well, you can now or later at the review of the working session.
Either way, I can jump in.
Go ahead.
What would you prefer? Now,
But since we're talking about it, I mean, we're talking about that
so
property.
Charles Browning has some property somewhere between Anderson's and the Knolls. I don't know.
It's right next to the
off
Southern Baptist
45.
Church off Highway
You
45
would
going
see a
east.
new gravel road that's been put in. And that was divided under our subdivision regulations that allows a division of land without any requirements to adhere to anything in our subdivision regulations if the lots are 5 acres or larger, which these all are. The only exception to that is any roads have to meet the fire code requirements that are put in there. And
Including Appendix B.
correct. And Captain from the fire department has looked at it. I think is that who?
Yeah, Brad Vanderberg went out and inspected it.
And he said at least the width of the road is too narrow, and there's a cul-de-sac that is also too small. We don't know about the base of the road or how that is. And there needs to be an engineer, I think, to inspect that. But just at surface level, the road does not meet those requirements. So the question from the Planning Commission was, what do we do? Their concern is that, and these lots are now being marketed for sale. If a buyer comes and buys that and then wants to build a home, they will not be able to do that based on our ordinances unless that road meets those requirements. And so the Planning Commission asked me what could be done to prevent that from happening. And the only thing that I think the city can do right now would be to file something with circuit court seeking an injunction to prevent any sales of those lots until the road meets those requirements.
It's product of standards.
Otherwise, we're gonna have disgruntled buyers who are gonna come in here thinking they're gonna build a house and they're gonna run into an expensive problem.
And they're selling them for like
And it's
$300,000.
listed, it's listed on the deed, the deed that, they haven't actually, did they actually separate the deeds and deed each parcel yet? It's still platted as one. piece of property, right?
They haven't,
Yeah.
but I don't, they're not technically required to do that. I mean, once
Yeah.
they sell the lot,
They are.
somebody will get a new
But
deed.
on the plat, it says that it's a city street and it's been dedicated to the city, and it has not. And we have not taken ownership of that street. So if you are a buyer looking at the plat, that's what it's gonna say on the side
I think that.
where the
I
survey
think
was
that
done.
Kashana put that, like, what they call, an easement plat in your packet. It might be behind the working session. I'm not sure where she put it. But it should be in your packet.
But the issue at hand for you all is to determine what, if anything, you want to do. I'm not gonna go file a lawsuit unless the council advises me to do so, but if we don't do that, I don't think there's anything that the city can do right now to prevent these lots from being sold, to prevent some new homeowner or landowner coming in wanting to pull a permit, and then we're gonna be dealing with that problem.
That's it right there.
So was the gentleman that did this at the meeting?
No,
Does he know it's an issue?
Well, I don't know if he does or he doesn't, but he should know that when he got this approved, that the roads need to meet that requirement. I mean, that's in our subdivision regulations.
So Chuck Browning in 2022 actually came before the planning commission, and knew that he wanted to create a subdivision and had to jump through, all of the hoops in order to get this preliminary plat approved. Then when he found out that all of the acres, if they were 5 acres or more, were exempt, he was like, oh, well, there's my loophole, more or less. So yeah, he absolutely knows what the subdivision regulations are. I believe it 100%.
Well, I don't think it's a choice. I mean, if this is marketed as a city road, which it's not to our
I don't
ordinance.
know that it's being marketed that way.
Oh,
This
it's
is,
on the-
this is what they,
it's on the realtor.com with this on it.
that is, okay.
I looked it up.
Well, then we don't have a choice. I mean, if he goes and continues,
This is what the engineer Blue and Associates sent me and asked me to sign. They said that they had finally gotten all of the utilities to sign off of it. And when I looked at it, it says City of Fayetteville when it should say City of Goshen. Plus I was like, well, where's the infrastructure? Where are my engineer plans? Where are the utility plans? And when I started asking questions, I was like, I'm not signing off on this. I felt extremely uncomfortable signing off on something like that. And so I took it before planning and they agreed.
good
And
catch.
there's one lot, am I correct, that has been sold? And wasn't he at the planning, at the workshop?
No,
Is
that's
that-
that's a
on
different-
Real
That's
Estate, that's a
It's still a
different,
5 acre,
Well, it's a completely different,
it's a
Okay.
different
different
area.
place,
okay,
different
so
area,
that's
different issue.
Wilson Lane, yes.
Wilson Lane. Okay,
So before we spend our resources, the city's resources and Brian's time, is it worth a letter from the city to this gentleman saying, you can't do this, and if you do this, we're gonna file an injunction?
That would be my recommendation, but I want to have the authority from you all that we are, I'm not going to send a letter threatening a lawsuit when I don't have authority to file one.
So,
So,
yeah, I mean, what I just said is my opinion. I think we need to
well,
put him on notice before we file an injunction. If you
Yeah.
don't want to play in the sandbox, then we file an injunction.
I think that's a good idea.
I need y'all to make a motion.
So moved.
so
All right,
moved.
so we have a motion and
Second.
a second to approve, send in a letter and,
Well, it's, yeah, I mean,
Brian,
I'm hoping the motion, not hoping, but I'm asking that the motion to clarify is to send a letter to try and resolve this short of filing a lawsuit. But if they're not willing to do that, then
Then to
move forward and
file
file for
Can
an
we put a
injunction.
time limit on that?
You
Yeah,
all tell me. I mean,
30 days to
30
respond.
days?
no.
no, I'm more.
I mean, we can get,
10
there,
days
some of
to
those lots can
respond.
be sold real,
Yeah,
my concern is I don't want a lot to be sold to
Before
a
this.
buyer not knowing that this is a problem.
they're
Yeah.
gorgeous. It's beautiful out there.
5 working days.
I mean, I'll send a letter tomorrow
Okay.
and ask that I get a response by Monday.
Okay.
So like, it'll be certified that way, and I'll put it in the file. I've got a Browning file if you want.
Sure, I'll send a copy to the city hall for sure.
Okay.
So that's my motion, what you just said, Councilman.
And if I don't get a response Monday, move forward with the
Injunction.
injunction.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Everybody understand?
Everybody vote, vote,
All right.
vote.
It
Do we do
it
a
was
roll
moved,
call
public,
vote?
well, let's do public comment first. Any public comment before we vote? Okay, take it to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Anything else for me?
Thank you, Lacey.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Good work, Lacey.
And again, Lacey's one of those employees that is doing an exceptional job at looking at all this stuff. This could have easily gotten accidentally missed, so thank you.
I'm gonna go buy 5 acres tonight.
All right, I think next we've got our building inspection report. JD's here.
During the month of March, I did approximately 30 field inspections, pretty good variety of inspections. There's a lot of homes under construction in Goshen right now. People's already starting off to be pretty busy for me.
Thank you.
Thank you, JD. All right. All right, we'll move on to the Parks and Rec report. They've got those swapped. I think it's supposed to have been Adam Walker that was going to do the report. But is there anybody here from Parks? Anybody missing? Well, let me pull it up and I can kind of talk you through it. So really the report is that we're really working all of our grants right now. So the only other thing is Highlands Gravel Classic. As far as the grants, we're working to finalize the 2022 awarded grant from RDOT for the TAP grant. And the only thing we're waiting on right now is we're waiting on Crafton and Tull for 100% design plans. I've talked to Luke Jost, who's working on that. He's had a bunch of projects and he's supposed to get that to us by mid-April so that we can get that put into RDOT. To RDOT so that they can go ahead and approve everything and we can move forward with it.
Is there a time frame we have to have submitted?
No, not for this part. So, we want to get it submitted, and we're trying to get it submitted at the same time as HUD because part of that project with HUD is that we're going to redo the entrance of Highway 45, but that also ties in with the trail that's been built from that parking lot on over. So those two projects hopefully will work simultaneously. Crafton and Toll will be overseeing the bids and everything on that once we get the approval for the money. Lacey's been working diligently with HUD, attempting to try to navigate all the different portals and online submissions of getting everything so that we can get our HUD funds. So we're still working on that. Everything's done. At this point, we're just waiting to get word back from HUD if there's anything else we need to do. And I know that Lacey's spent all day today looking at stuff that is, HUD is not easy because there's a lot of contradictory things on the website versus what's told to us by our HUD representative that we're working with at the local level. And so there were questions about whether we get those funds all up front and then we use those funds, and as long as we use them the way we said, then we're good. If not, they take the money back. Versus we put the money out and then we get reimbursed. The way I understood it, and the way that we've been told, is that we get the money all at once. It goes into our bank account. We use it for the projects. So that's the way my understanding. But if you get on the website, Lacey showed me today, and I was like, wait a second, that's not at all the way I understood it. So she has a call set up with our representative to go over more of this.
Yeah, I have a meeting with our HUD representative, Mr. Malik, I think is how you say it. So the action plan was actually turned in today. It was submitted today. So we're waiting on that to get approved, and then we subcategorize our action plan into projects. The confusion is whether we get a portion or all of our HUD funding per project. So are they going to do it for all of our action plan, or are they going to give it to us based on our projects and how that goes? And so that's what I'm waiting on from that meeting.
Yeah. And we do have everything set up with bank accounts ready for those funds to come in because they are electronic transfer into the bank directly. So we should be ready for that. We've already completed everything as far as surveys. We'll be able to close on the land quickly. We have 100% design, from Crafton and Tull on the other project. So everything should move smoothly once we get everything in. All right, and then Highlands Gravel Classic, we had a meeting today with them. I don't think they're quite prepared. Chief Travis can chime in on this maybe as well. A meeting today, I don't think they're quite prepared. They're not prepared on the side of emergency management. And I would say that, 90% of this race is going to be in Madison County. And they really hadn't contacted any of the people they needed to contact in Madison County yet. So, yeah,
Not,
no,
They're actually going
we're 2 weeks out.
on to Highway 74 and go up 74 a little bit and Rose Creek and then come back on
Yeah. So there's been a little hit and miss on the coordination of this. And, I'm a little disappointed that there hasn't been better coordination and better planning on their part, but we're working with them. We're trying to get it all lined out where it goes smoothly. Hopefully it will go well. This is an adventure for each of us. I don't know that we'll repeat it or we won't. I don't know, but we'll see how it goes.
have they talked with Madison EMS? Madison
No.
County?
No,
What about Central?
they were on the call today.
Listen to me.
Yeah, if not. And then we asked how many calls they had for Central for last year, and they didn't know. They knew they had calls for service. They couldn't tell us like who responded. So
They did it apparently done for the last 2 years. I wasn't notified, and the fire department wasn't notified. They did it
Here.
well, it was not here. It was at Fishing Farm.
around this area. They did it, and nobody was notified. Nobody was notified. So, Anthony made the comment that he can't afford just to call somebody in on a Saturday to sit and do this for them, so that they would have to sit still. And then also, I asked, well, like you said, you're asking for an officer and one officer to use them. Is that just come out of Iowa contract? And his comment was, well, the mayor said that he would supply an officer.
We did discuss being able to utilize overtime for an officer for this event, which I don't mind helping out with the event. That's, allowing for overtime for an officer to be there. But in the future, this is going to be very clear up front. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later on as far as event pay and stuff too. As far as the rest of the parks report, the disc golf course is getting moved lower into the park because of the course being in an area that was overgrown and too difficult, and people had complaints. So it's going to be moved down lower into flatter area. So they're going to do that, I think, this coming Saturday. Caleb's moving that. The other thing was upcoming grants, which we talked about last meeting. We approved that we were going to apply for them. So Traffic Control will be working on the second TAP grant for RDOT. And we haven't actually decided what we're going to do for the outdoor recreational grant proposal. We're going to discuss that more at the Parks meeting this month. So as to what we're going to apply for. We think it's probably going to be pavilion bathrooms at the top of the new area on the new entrance over there. So we don't know for sure.
So Russell, where are we at on the lease before, until we buy the?
Yes, so I should let you guys know. We leased this property from Bob Doherty, and I reached out to Bob Doherty early in the year and said, I think we're going to be able to get this approval and get the money. He agreed, we'll wait a while, we'll see. It came to be March, and he said, have you heard anything? I said, I think at this point we need to pay you a prorated amount. So we paid him through April. And he's agreed to allow us to pay him each month until we're able to close on the property. So I'm glad you asked that question. So we are taking care of that. Yep. So, all right. I guess we'll move on to Arbor Board report unless you guys have any other questions about parks that I can answer. All right.
So Goshen Arbor Day and the Forestry Free Tree Friday has been scheduled for this Friday at 11 to 1 at City Hall, and we'll have over 200 seedlings to hand out. The Arbor Board members have agreed to volunteer with the Urban Forestry Department to hand that out to the community. Mary had ordered some native trees and shrubs to be planted at Mill Branch, and also some additional tree and rock plaques that will be added to the community building. This is all in your report there too. The University of Arkansas Arboretum has called, and they're going to have a visit for UA students to collect plant samples and record findings for them. And the Urban Forestry Department, Harold Fisher has purchased a 15-gallon eastern redbud tree as a gift, and we're going to plant it out here on Arbor Day, which is Friday. So the celebration will be complete. Any questions?
Good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, we're going to give away the seedlings that's involved. So we're going to plant the eastern redbud over here. Oh,
No, they're all different kinds of hardwood. Yeah, some of them are pine cane, but they had a bunch of different varieties last year. There was a question about what types of seedlings.
they haven't announced it yet. There's a variety of different ones, and they'll come the day before.
So similar to last year.
Yes.
Okay.
It was the day before last year.
Thank you.
We know where the trees are planted. Oh, the 15-gallon redbud is going to be planted over here where there was a dead tree. Okay. We're not going to get it. Yeah, it's 15 gallons. So the city has agreed to bring it from White River Nursery because I don't think it's going to happen that. But the seedlings are very small, so if you wanted to come and take all of it.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our old business. Item A, adoption of ICC codes.
This was tabled last month, and I think it was discussed partially during the working session, but it's back before you all tonight. The ordinance that was prepared adopts 3 different volumes of the fire code. And it's up for discussion and for you all to decide what you want to do.
And I'm assuming that does not specifically adopt,
This one does not.
the,
Appendix D, correct. So again, on that note, Appendix D is referenced a few different times throughout our subdivision regulations. One pertaining to the 5-acre exception exemption we were talking about, but it's not, we have not adopted it in its entirety by an ordinance.
so, and that's not mutually exclusive of each other. In other words, if we don't adopt it, doesn't void it in
In our subdivision regulations.
So this excludes the concerns Max brought up last month about with the streets, fire code.
some of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think, I mean, after I think the working session, I think we need to, and I've talked to Lacey about this, we need to really define private drive, shared access roads, and,
Driveway.
Yep.
Private access road, collector road, arterial road.
and the definitions and what we expect as far as widths, turnarounds, all that stuff.
That was actually and I'm asking for clarification because Appendix D is only adopted in our subdivision regulations for major subdivisions. This isn't for tandem lots or any minor subdivisions. So subdivisions are at 26 feet, which is listed in Appendix D. Any other private access roads is 20 feet. Collector roads also 20 feet. Arterial roads, the only arterial road that we really have going through Goshen is Highway 45, so that's highway like RDOT regulated. Are we all on the same page? Making sure that I'm gonna enforce what I need to.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other?
Will this 20 get us where the fire department wants us?
Yeah, so for those, it does, yes. And 13 feet would be for like the private access road or private drive.
Just driveway.
Driveway.
Yes. Private access.
Driveway.
road is still at 20 feet.
20 feet, yeah. Questions about it?
No.
Okay.
So at some point in the future, we will define these various types of roads.
Well,
And the other
they also
thing
talked
is that
about-
we need to recognize the city has city streets that are not that wide. So all of those would have to be grandfathered in, because there are some city streets that there is literally no way to make them wider.
Which ones?
So White, you can't make that wider off the bluff.
You
I
can
mean,
when
you
you,
just can't.
well, you still had access to dynamite.
Yeah, so there are still, Nimmo Lane that is not wide enough by city standards, but it's still a city street. So those are ones that it would be very, very arduous and difficult. I think even on Oxford Bend, there's areas that don't meet the standard.
Oh, sure.
So because it's narrow. So we have to recognize there are city streets that will not meet that same thing that we're going to require for people moving forward. So, okay. Any other discussion about the ordinance?
Make a motion to suspend the rules, waive the second and third readings, and read by title only.
Second it.
Okay, so the motion and a second. Any public comment before we vote? All right, we have a roll call vote.
Birch Wright,
Yes.
John Valencourt,
Yes.
Paula Anderson. Yes. Sean Mayfield.
Yes.
Max Boy.
Yep.
Colton Martin.
Yes.
An ordinance to adopt various standard codes relating to inspection activities of the city of Goshen, Washington County, Arkansas, and enforcement of building provisions as provided in said codes, to create a fine or penalty related thereto, and to declare an emergency and for other purposes.
Make a motion to approve the ordinance.
Second.
So a motion to approve the ordinance in a second.
Birch
Roll call
Wright,
vote.
Yes.
John Valencourt,
Yes.
Paula Anderson. Yes. Sean Mayfield.
Yes.
Max Boy.
Yes.
Colton Martin.
All right, motion carries. Ordinance adopted. All right,
There's an emergency clause.
Oh.
If y'all want to adopt.
there's the emergency clause.
Lacey, would you appreciate the emergency clause?
Yeah, please. Tell us if you think.
She's been wanting
Yes.
this,
Since August.
I'll make a motion to approve the emergency clause.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the emergency clause.
Birch Wright,
Yes.
John Valencourt,
Yes.
Paula Anderson. Yes. Max Boy,
Yes.
Sean Mayfield.
Yes.
Colton Martin.
All right, emergency clause is adopted. All right.
the courts. Well, the prosecutors just have to get a copy at that point, yeah. I mean, we don't have to notify the court at all, but prosecutor will get it if needed.
So we have next on the agenda the amendment of ordinance 181. You want to talk about it, Brian?
You all read this for a first reading back in November, and I think it kind of fell through the cracks and hasn't come back up for a second or third reading. So it's back again, and it needs to move forward if you all want to do anything on this.
Is that,
This is where we were making some changes to the public comment time, adding public comment to the beginning.
okay,
of the
that's
meeting.
why it says Goshen City Council.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it basically amends it for the public comment. We just need to, at this point, we just need to actually take a
We
vote.
could, we could read it for a second reading tonight, or y'all can waive the third reading tonight and go ahead and vote on it. That's up to you all.
I'll make a motion to waive the third reading.
Suspend the rules and
and
waive the third
suspend
reading.
it. Yeah,
Second.
And you want me to read it in title only?
yes,
Correct.
and not only the first line.
I'm not gonna make you read
15 pages.
Y'all want to hear me read? All right, good.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules, reading title only,
And waive it.
and waive the third reading. Any public comment before we vote? No. So at ordinance 181 is an ordinance on how we actually conduct ourselves in city council meetings. It's how we govern our meetings. And what we did was we had a discussion about when we added public comments. So we changed the order on this section here. So it's roll call, approval of the agenda, and then public input. That wasn't there before. So we added the public input under that approval of the agenda, and then we added it back into the end as well. So we had both of those areas for public input.
In time.
Yeah, 2 minutes for each person. So that's why at the beginning of the meeting, I will say, is there anybody that has any comments or public input, like Debbie came to the mic? And then we didn't have that before.
The issue was the meetings were going till 10 and 10:30. People wanted to give public input, they had to wait till 10 and 10:30.
Yes.
So we put it towards the front. In addition to
And that's also important.
It's part of our ordinance of the way we structure our meetings. And so if we're changing the ordinance, we have to amend it. And so by amending it, that requires us to do this change in ordinance. Yeah. But that's really the only substantive change of this ordinance was that change in that way we structured the agenda.
and the time limit.
And the time limit, yeah.
We added number 4 at the top, and everything else stayed the same.
Any other questions from the public?
So the pledge of allegiance doesn't have to be on the agenda.
I mean, we can,
I mean, I'm just asking, I don't know.
No,
doesn't have to, because we
doesn't
just
have
do
to.
it at the beginning of the meeting. I mean, I can just do that as part of the meeting. So
Okay, are we,
we have to adopt this every year so we can add that to next year.
in December, or January.
Any other public comment or question before we vote? All right, roll call.
Birch Wright,
Yes.
John Valencourt,
Yes.
Paula Anderson. Yes. Sean Mayfield.
Yes.
Max Boyd,
Yes.
Colton Martin.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 181.
Motion to adopt the ordinance amending ordinance 181.
Second. All right, so we have a motion to adopt the ordinance by Paula and a second by Birch or Max.
Colt, nothing.
Colton.
Oh, Colton, sorry. All right. Roll call.
Birch Wright,
Yes.
John Valencourt,
Yes.
Paula Anderson. Yes. Sean Mayfield,
Yes.
Max Boyd.
Yes.
Colton Martin.
Emergency clause.
There is one there. Y'all want to adopt it?
I'll make a motion to adopt the emergency clause.
Second.
We have a motion to adopt the emergency clause by John Valencourt and a second by Sean Mayfield. Roll call vote.
Birch Wright,
No.
John Valencourt,
Emergency.
What?
So you vote.
So we just goes away. Yes.
Paula Anderson. No, again, don't think it's an emergency. We've already been doing it, so. Max Boyd,
No.
Sean Mayfield.
Yes.
Colton Martin.
The emergency clause does not pass, so we'll continue to wait one more month.
Is it 1 month or 3 months?
Well, at this point. Well, I
It's
guess
3
since we
months.
just- Still
We're
be
gonna be
3
close
months,
to it.
yeah. So,
Oh,
But y'all been doing this anyway.
Yeah.
all right,
We're breaking our rules.
so we'll go ahead and move on to the item C that I added for the RDOT and HUD report. I've kind of already given you the update for the Parks Commission. The other thing with RDOT I wanted to give you an update on is that we did do a traffic study for a stoplight at Goshen Tuttle and Highway 45, Blue Springs. We got the results of that back from RDOT. We do not meet the need for a stoplight at that intersection at this time.
thank God.
So we asked, how many more cars need to be going through that intersection before we qualify for one? 150 per hour more is what is needed to actually warrant us having a stoplight at that intersection.
Not that we have to put one there at that point, but to
Well,
warrant.
Yeah, to warrant RDOT approving it, for us to be able to
Right.
get any kind of financial, support for it. Not only that, and I'm glad John Cover's here, because, the property it would affect. They would have to actually, his house would have to be moved, his property would be over there, and they would have to take part of that property because they have to line those intersections up directly across from each other, which they don't line up correctly now, because there's a stagger there. So John, you had a comment?
I just wasn't already to say, I was all for it. I mean, I think there needs to be a stop line. So I had already talked with the state a little bit, it was gonna happen already. Home builder out of the little up area, or a home mover, the guys moved their house, coming up and talk to us a little bit, end up renting to actually move the house by the little area garage, doing things like this. So I was
Yeah.
I was all for it. I think it needs to happen, but anyway.
Yeah.
Well, just like Paul said, how many people's lives are important enough to put in. Well, and I understand that it's an expense that the city's not ready to do, but me and my little car can't see past those big old trucks sitting right there at that stop sign. You have to pull out into the highway, whether or not you can get out on the highway. And that's not.
I fully support a stoplight there. I have to take the kids to school every morning, and it is sometimes very, very difficult to get out. I understand. I mean, I don't disagree. I totally agree. And I got this report early. I was going to wait till they got done with the resurfacing of the road, but I got a citizen that asked if we could do something. And so, I called RDOT and said, hey, can we go ahead and get this study done to see if we would qualify? Paul, you had
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to say is that we do need to speak with our police officers on this, because in some cases, stoplights, you actually end up, accident wise and severity of accidents, sometimes stoplights are not an improvement as far as accidents go.
Yeah, it's gonna back.
Yeah. Yeah. And across the parking lot in Anderson, right.
Make a right-hand turn.
Yeah.
I've seen many trucks doing that.
And
That's dangerous.
that's something maybe we can, I don't know if you can.
let me reach out to RDOT and see if there's some way we can put some sort of, those flexible, like,
Flapper barriers.
When I talked to
barriers.
them, they said that they were doing them more than what they've done right now.
Well-
And part of that property is Anderson's private property. And it goes back to the city council, which should not have ever allowed it to put that, back in front of the station. That's their store. They should have kept it back. And, I mean, I know it's a historical thing, but it makes it dangerous. I've also seen trucks parked parallel to 45.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a difficult, yeah, and the police officers can't be there 24/7 to keep someone from parking there, and I understand that too. And I experience the difficulty, like all of you guys do. The other question is, I don't know for sure. I didn't ask, RDOT if we can put a stoplight without, their support. Lacey, you have a comment?
Well, I have another suggestion. What about maybe, you don't necessarily like speed bumps in the road and say, hey, like dangerous intersection coming up, or a sign that says dangerous intersection.
It's not the people on Blue Springs or Goshen Tuttle that it's an issue for. It's the people on Highway 45 that are driving through there that it's an issue, then hitting somebody coming off of Blue Springs or Goshen Tuttle.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you put a sign
We
on
can't-
45,
We can't put anything on 45 that RDOT doesn't approve.
would that be a suggested?
I don't think they will do that, but I can definitely talk to them, but I'm pretty sure they won't.
They might for the traffic going west because it's coming over a knoll, okay? But going east, the visibility is a long way, so.
Well, let me have another discussion with RDOT about alternatives and what we can do to make it safer. Does that sound fair? I think we all agree it's not safe, and we all want to see it be safer. So what can we do to make it safer? And I'll talk to them about options, because I do think we need to have some option to either slow people down, prevent that area from being, parked in.
Well, maybe just as they come over the knoll, coming this way, drop the speed limit more than what it is.
Well, we can't drop it without RDOT approval.
I understand, but ask them to drop.
We
the
can
speed.
do that.
And the same for this one, just before.
We just changed it to 25. So.
Which one?
You talking about Goshen Tuttle?
No, I'm talking about on 45.
Oh, coming east?
Coming east
Drop it below 40, like down
You
to
know,
30,
where it's,
35,
where it's 40,
40. It dropped from 55 to 45 to 40.
right, but
Yeah.
again, have them drop it.
Well, like I said, let me have a discussion with RDOT about what we can do to make it a safer intersection. Whether it be speed change, whether it be lights, whether it be something to slow people down and make it more visible.
Didn't we have that discussion about the hill coming into Goshen from the east, right by Mill Branch a few years ago? And
Yeah.
there was some, because we talked about 35, and they wouldn't go.
They wouldn't go for it. I'll talk to them again. We'll see what we can do, but I'll let you guys know by next meeting what they say. And if we don't get the right answer,
Now,
well, but they
That's-
will not allow a four-way stop on Highway 45 because it's a state highway.
When you talk to them, could you mention maybe you look at it first, but the passing lane in front of JB Hunt, if we could get that removed?
Can you speak into the mic? I can't hear.
The passing lane that's in front of JB Hunt, if we could, it's dangerous. If we could see if we could make that double lines.
I can ask them.
Yeah, because I know they're gonna resurface that when they pull it back, they could put double lines there. Because I don't think anybody should be passing.
now they
Not there now.
one other thing, which part of the cost of a traffic light is the lights themselves. It's
ongoing.
Yeah, it's ongoing.
Yeah.
Has there been any, I just don't know where RDOT stands on roundabouts.
So I'll ask them about roundabouts. I'll ask them about slower, traffic limits. I mean, as far as speed limits, I'll ask them about hazard signs in a dangerous intersection. And then I'll ask them if there's any options to improve that intersection that we could do outside of a traffic light and see what they have. And then bring all that back to you guys. If they say, well, there's nothing we can do, well, I mean, I can talk to our state representatives and have them talk about it at the state level.
Yeah, but
So-
there'll never be enough room down there for a roundabout.
Well, again, it depends on their, right now we've got those turn lanes, and turn lanes would be essentially become the
we-
center of the roundabout.
We don't have a turn lane.
Now, we do have a turn lane on that.
I don't think they do that.
But
State highway.
I've never seen
I
a
don't know.
roundabout.
I've
stay
never
out.
seen that, but again, you never
We're,
know.
we're putting in a stoplight for the hospital and between RDOT, the city, the railroad. It's not fun. And you can't just put it up because even if we said we'll write the check, they won't let you.
Yeah.
Stop it.
And that was my understanding. That's why I started with the study, and then we'll go from there. And I'll keep talking. And thank goodness, I mean, I have a good relationship with the people at RDOT. They're great to work with, but there are limitations, and I know that that's sometimes a difficulty.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
Have they already nixed the idea of just doing a cheaper alternative, which would be a full stop?
Yeah, they will not allow four-way stop there. They've already said they won't. Lacey?
When we talked to Minwa, we had asked that she ask the study people about how close we were to follow.
Yeah, I talked to her about. I said that in the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't know where you were. Minwa said it requires 150 more vehicles per hour before it would meet the requirement. That they did. It was a study for 24 hours, and it was for a week. So 24 hours a day for a week.
For 7 days a week. Yeah. For
And
7 days.
they monitor it. Peak times. I mean, we have quite congestion at peak time, morning when people are going to work and school, and evenings as people come home. But it still didn't meet that requirement. John?
Might be a stretch, but it's might not even work. Have you ever thought about moving blue trains away from where they're now? Kind of coming behind Anderson Speed Bar?
Yeah, there is an easement through there on that property, and the property owner, that was one of the things that we may discuss with him because he wants to do some development there. But it would require him agreeing to allow us to use that easement as the city and divert that traffic over through that area. It would come out on the other side of Phillips 66. So,
At the bottom of the hill.
but it would probably require the city to approve some sort of storage units on his property. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, no way.
Well, if it were hidden, then we could get an access road through there. It may be something to discuss if we could get, business frontage and get better access. So it would come in just past where Doug Chandler built his house.
I'm talking about, down here, not, I'm sorry, not with your Goshen tunnel, come in, let's say going up to the by the front now.
I mean, using the old Southbury Lane and then Nemo to come in.
We're talking about, at the feed store, so I'm not hitting 45 west of the feed store, right? Yeah.
I mean, we could look at.
It's only maintain that area where everybody's complaining about, and they're responsible there. Give Anderson's back, but then come in behind the feed store, where the police sit.
Yeah.
It just seems like there's so much room there for look and left and right. I don't know, make that a left turn out.
Yeah.
You're right.
No, I'm thinking about logistically and geographically how it could be done. So I'm not sure. I'll look at it. I'll look at it and see.
All we need is more storage facilities approved. And
Well, the mayor's gonna call and check.
and we'll call Goshen the storage.
We only have one storage complex unit that's going in that's very well hidden.
Not up
We're gonna move on to the next item, which is the job posting that we have, under old agenda, item D, our old business. So we did get the, job posted for the third office staff position. If you guys haven't seen it, it's on Indeed. The job description you guys should have in your packets as well to look at. It's heavily focused on grant and website design and being able to maintain our website. Lacey needs some offloading of all of her job duties. She is doing the job of 3 people right now. So this is gonna hopefully help eliminate all the extra work that she's having to put in on all this stuff and get her back on planning, zoning, permits, enforcement. Okay? So we're gonna take our time to make sure we get the right person, because we don't want to end up getting somebody that isn't gonna work well with the city. So I've told them they have 2 to 3 months to find somebody that really fits well. So
Lacey, just so, since we don't have both of you here, would you bring back the email that was sent yesterday late or today with the other things on it? I never received it. Okay. The only reason I received it is when Brian attached your 3 things and sent it.
are you talking about the job description?
There was,
The only thing I sent were the
yeah, but you,
ordinances and resolutions.
but you attached it to an email, or it went with an email that was sent prior, but I had never received it until I got that one.
There were 3 sent. There was one sent Friday afternoon. There's one sent, yesterday, then Brian attached the ordinance. I don't think they're anywhere attached to anything. But
I didn't
Well-
forward an email. I just sent an
I don't know, but it picks them up.
email. I don't know how that works.
I'll tell you what, I can show you on my
I'm
computer.
not doubting you,
If there's
John.
anything you would like to request, send an email. We will be happy to send it. I mean, I'm not
No,
sure
we
what
went
you need.
through a period of time, but just check and send a test again,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, I know that we had I guess about a month ago or so, we had an email issue a little bit, so I'll still with that.
Yeah, because there was one I did not get until I got yours.
Okay. So if
Hourly?
it's an hourly, yeah, it's an hourly rate of 18 an hour.
What's the, how many hours do you think they'll work?
It's no more than 2 days a week.
Oh, okay.
So at this point, I mean, when we look at the budget for next year, it may increase a little bit, but the problem is if we run into anything more than 2 days a week, we have to pay APRS and we have to pay all the other, benefits.
Benefits, yeah.
So, So we're trying to, limit how much we're expending on that aspect of it right now.
We did at the university. We did they calculated it based on like hourly, how many hours you worked in a fiscal year.
Yeah, it's different with municipalities. So we
you have to
follow
live by
the
per
different
week.
rules. Yep.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'll try better.
He was saying that the university, they calculated it on annual hours. And it with municipalities, we're not able to do that just based on municipal government. So because of the way we're structured, there are different HR rules for us. So the last thing on the old city business is updates on city work. So everybody has made comments about City Hall looking better, and I appreciate that they like it. We're not done. So we still have awnings that are coming. So awnings should be there next week. We called and asked when they were going to get installed. We still have some exterior doors that are going to be getting painted, and some glass doors that go over those to protect the steel so they're not exposed to the weather. There a city signage that's not up yet. We've got it ordered and it's in. So we've got all the letters to put on there, Goshen City Hall on the side and on the front part. And when we were waiting on a bid back for the police sign for, say, Goshen Police Department, we haven't gotten the bid back from them. I'll have to follow up with them because it's been a while. And then other things that are coming is that the asphalt repair, and I have a guy coming Friday to look at it for repairing some of it. We've gotten a couple bids, actually 3 different bids on asphalt, just for resurfacing all of around City Hall. And then we are also extending that parking area out that will allow for parking that you pull in and you park basically facing Goshen Tuttle, and then striping for that as well, and then identifying handicap parking spots. So these are all things that will continue to be at City Hall as far as the finishing some of those exterior renovations. As far as the community building, you guys can probably see that it's getting painted right now. So it's the same color City Hall, black trim as well. They'll redo the pavilion and they'll paint this building, this accessory building out here. So that should be done within the next week or so.
Who's been doing the painting work?
So James and Darlene are their names, but I forget the name of their paint company. It's a husband and wife couple, and they've done a great job at a very good price, way cheaper than anybody else. So, any other questions about that? Oh, we do have a window that's getting replaced over there that's broken, and Eddie Mashburn, who did the salt storage building, he'll be replacing that window for us.
Still broken.
Huh?
It's still broken.
It is. Oh, the windows at City Hall are getting replaced as well. So he'll be doing this window when he replaces the windows at City Hall. They were on back order, so I don't know exactly when we'll get those windows in, but as soon as they come in, he'll get those installed as well. So.
Those dozer work being done down by City Hall, is that related to the city or?
No, and actually I covered that earlier. That was because of our septic system, and that dozer work was me. And I did get a bid on what it would cost to do that dozer work, and it was $8,400 for the work, and we did it for $1,200, so we did save quite a bit of money. But I would rather spend that money at other places and try not to go outside of our budget. so that's where that comes in. Any other questions about work being done around here? Okay. So we'll move on to new city business. So the animal control ordinance is the first item.
I'll make a motion to read in title only.
There's
I
discussing
would
a
like
little
to
bit.
discuss this a little bit. And
My-
I mean, honestly, I didn't have time to get through reading all of it myself.
Well, I talked to the mayor earlier. There's some changes that he saw that need to be made. My recommendation, regardless on something like this, is that you all read it on separate meetings. And so it's up tonight. I would suggest that you all read this, move to read it for the first reading tonight, and then we can discuss it, make changes as we need to.
Because there was even a part where, on a part about the leash the person with the animal has to have their dog on a leash.
Yeah.
I don't think they need to have a dog on a leash all the time. I think they need to have their dog under control.
Under control.
And so that part needs to be changed. And so, we'll make the changes to that and bring it back to the next meeting. But that's one of the things of us reading it multiple times, we can catch those things.
Okay.
So I would suggest somebody make your motion to read this in title only, and then
That's,
open it up for discussion.
that's what I was doing.
Good.
Has it been posted?
No, you weren't.
No.
Well, it was.
That's right, Mark.
You have to read it 3 times.
Do we post it before we?
Vote on it. It'd be after. It gets
Yeah,
posted after it's
Yeah, we
adopted.
don't ever post.
Well,
it.
make a
my
motion to
concern
read in
is
title only.
I got it last night by email, and I feel pretty sure that none of the people in the city have had opportunity to see it or hear it. It's 19 pages long.
Yeah, and so
It's pretty entailed.
it will be, we can make it available for anybody that wants to come by and pick it up and read it. As far as the citizens, I don't know how else to get it out to the citizens
Can't you
before
put
it's
it on
adopted.
the website
Well,
We can put it on the website.
so that they could
We can't put it on there as an approved ordinance. We can put on there as a proposed ordinance.
put draft?
That we, yeah,
and Max and I have a lot of hesitation with this because if I recall, some of our biggest meetings we've ever had in the past had to do with any sort of animal related ordinance or issue.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of
feelings run deep.
public
But there's
input.
some stuff in here that, other than, I agree with you about the leash and under control and all that. And there's a place where it says you can't have livestock anywhere zoned residential unless you have an adequate place for the livestock.
Right.
Well, rural residential,
I think it defines what is adequate for livestock, and I think it defines that.
no,
but
it
it's-
defines what's
but it's-
adequate for bees.
Yeah, we
Oh,
got
right.
these,
Beekeeping.
These are the only thing you're right. That's
I mean, yeah, I mean,
I would like to hear what the police department has to say about it, because they take a pretty big role, and I know we talked about this in the past, and they can't haul animals in squad cars.
No, we did discuss that at, I think, last meeting. So we are going to use the retired Explorer that's now for the city use, and we're going to have a kennel made to go in the back of it. So the kennel would be in the back of the old Explorer, and that would be the animal control vehicle until we get another retired police vehicle at some point.
I just think there's several things in there that we probably should hash
Yes.
out,
I saw that on the bees and I went like,
And I would say that we do, so the old diesel tank that's there next to the fire station, I talked to Anthony, they don't use it anymore. So they basically asked their volunteers if they want that tank, and that tank's going to be moved, and it's a perfect spot to build a really small 2 to 3 dog holding area for animals there. And I actually talked to the mayor of Elkins, and I asked him, where do you guys hold your animals? Because it has to be somewhere where it's covered, but they don't require for it to be in like a temperature controlled setting. But I said, what do you do in the middle of the summer when it's 110 degrees? I said, take them to the Washington County Animal Shelter. So it's our discretion, at some point we have to decide when it's too hot to keep animals out there or when it's too cold. So that would be the other thing, is we can't hold animals for, a few days, but generally after that, they go to the Washington County. What was that, Lacey?
24 hours.
No, I think that, when I talked to Troy over at Elkins, I think it was like 3 to 5 days is how they normally will hold those animals. And sometimes they'll hold them a little bit longer depending if there's, room at the animal shelter.
So, oh, go ahead.
The animal shelters are consistently full.
Yeah.
When it's full, but I'm interested to know how that works. They haven't had openings in so long.
We have a contract with them. They have to take our animals. So that they do. Yeah. So that is, but like Troy was saying, sometimes they'll hold them a little bit longer if they're full, just so that it gives them a chance to kind of catch up. Working together, even though we have a contract, they have to take them.
We pay a pretty good penny for them to take them.
Yes. Yeah, we pay $150 for each animal that goes. So, and that's part of this ordinance, is that cost gets passed on to, like, if I'm an irresponsible dog owner and my dog's out roaming the city and it's causing trouble, and we have to go pick it up. We would initially hold it in our, kennels that we would build at City Hall. And if, say that the dog is picked up within that 2 to 3 or 4 days, however long we're going to keep it there, then they would pay the city $150 for or I think that's what it's written in here, for us having to have gone and gotten the dog, kept the dog in the kennel, fed the dog, taken care of the dog or the animal, whether it's dog or cat. But and then after that, it would go to the Washington County shelter, and then we would pay that $150 fee up front. But if they went to go get their animal, they're going to have to pay the $150 back. So they would have to pay the $150 to us plus $150 to Washington County. So they essentially have to pay $300 to get their animal back. Hopefully, that deters people from letting their animals just run around the city. The problem has been is that we have animals that we know that the owners live here in the city, and their animals run around all down around here. A couple of them have growled at my girls. I've had to run them off from the park. Other people, I think Betty had an experience where a dog came up and was aggressive and growled at her while she was here watering trees. We want to prevent that from being a nuisance that happens regularly, and it's happening regularly. And so we want to stop that. And so that's what really prompted us to bring this ordinance up and try to get a good ordinance together so that it's pretty inclusive.
So the different animals that are listed in the appendix, is that from somewhere?
Yeah, so the state has an animal kind of code that they use. And then we went and pulled Greenland's ordinances, Elkin's ordinances, West Fork's ordinances, Springdale's ordinances, and kind of compiled this ordinance from those. And that's how this came about. So we took a look at the other surrounding cities and what they use and brought this ordinance forward using a lot of the same language that they have.
But
So
we can't do
everything.
a lot of stuff that's in there.
No, we can. I don't think there's anything in there that we can't do.
Well, it's going to be a lot more work
It
on
is.
the office staff because you're talking about registering animals and such.
But I mean,
Well,
the
I don't think-
beekeeping and, these.
The ordinance is there for us to be able to go back and follow up on. It doesn't mean we're going to apply this ordinance all the time. If someone's keeping bees and it's not been a problem, we're probably not going to have somebody going out and inspecting it. But if a neighbor comes up and says, hey, these bees are a problem and someone needs to come out here, someone from the city would go out. If they're in violation of the ordinance, then we would say, you violate the ordinance, you'd have to do something about this. At this point, we can't do anything.
I understand, but that goes back to, okay, you make an ordinance and then you don't follow up on it. Okay, it goes back to what has been said in the last few meetings, that we haven't been enforcing our ordinances for years.
Correct.
If you're gonna have an ordinance,
But we don't sometimes know these things until they're brought to us. There's not going to be someone going out, policing this stuff on a regular basis. But when citizens bring the concern to you at the city, and we have no ordinance by which to even address it, then it's a problem. So if we at least have the ordinance when it comes to our attention, then we can actually enforce the ordinance that we have. That's been part of the other issue, is that yes, in the past, people have complained about people's yards looking terrible or things being disorderly, and we haven't done anything about it. Now we are going to go out and actually enforce those ordinances and tell people that they have to clean up their properties. So we can't do something about everything, but when there is a concern brought by a citizen, then we have an ordinance that addresses it, then we can follow that ordinance. Right now, we don't have an ordinance, so we can't do
no, I
anything at all.
understand that.
And I'm not saying you're not right. I'm saying that yes, we can't police everything. That is true. And we will have ordinances where people violate it and we don't even know they're violating it because we're not policing it.
Correct.
That is what I'm saying.
How about if we table it for tonight? You can put it on the website, not as an official ordinance, but let people see it. City council could bring back ideas for changes or email them to.
I think that's what we're asking for by its first reading.
But my suggestion, don't table it. Y'all make a motion to have it read tonight. But you're not passing it, you're not
Not
adopting it.
It's because it has to be read
3 times.
3 times
I
anyhow.
understand.
And we
Okay.
can leave
That
it.
way
then-
this would
but
be
then
3 times.
Yes, then any changes that anybody has, contact me, and
So
I guess-
we can read it title only, and if we make a change, that doesn't.
it'll come back and
negate
it
that.
can be amended at the second reading.
Like I wanted to change already before it's.
Right.
So, once again, I'll make a motion to read in title only,
Just the once.
the first reading.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to read in title only and a second. Any public comment before we vote? Yes.
I just want to say that we have dogs come up on our property all the time. And it's not only when you're in some of them, I mean, I love playing with our grandkids, you know, we have a great time with them, you know. And that's not, you know, once they come up to our property, you call, or you got my brown bench, or growl at me, or lunge at me, and growl me, then that's the one that you can do something about.
That's correct. But you have to have something in place, like Russell said, to deal with it.
And right now, if I call Jackson and complain about the dogs, there's nothing you can do about it.
That's right.
That's correct.
Is
But
there,
I can shoot them.
Yeah,
That is true.
And there's no law that says you can't shoot a gun
It's true.
in the city proper of Goshen.
is there anything we could do tonight to, I mean, I think we all agree that vicious dogs roaming around, we don't want that. Is there anything we can do tonight?
No, you're gonna pass
No.
an ordinance on that.
We have to pass the ordinance. And you have to do it you have to read it 3 times.
Well, we have a vicious dog
Yes.
ordinance.
But the vicious dog ordinance,
It's very limited.
it's very limited what you can do.
We've used it before.
Yeah, it has to actually bite somebody
No,
before we can actually take that dog.
no, that's not the way it was.
I think if you read the ordinance,
I don't know which ordinance it is.
it's a vicious animal ordinance.
But it's ready for a roll call.
Ready for a call?
Yep.
Bruce Wright,
Yes.
John Valencourt.
Yes,
Holly Anderson. John Mayfield.
Yes.
Max Foy.
Yes.
Colton Martin.
An ordinance adopting an animal control ordinance by reference for the city of Goshen, Arkansas.
So
Okay.
Brian, if we wanted to maybe split this out, just because I don't want to delay, I think that there's going to be some things in this ordinance that might cause us to delay implementing a rule about vicious dogs. Could we break that out and have?
If you want to present a different ordinance just on that issue, that can be done.
I would
And
like,
add that to next month's agenda.
yeah, I would like to pass that with an emergency clause and expedite.
next month.
If
I
you
think that's a good
will-
idea. Colton.
Yeah,
If you want to take the lead and tell me what you want it
Okay.
to look like,
I'll send you.
if we can put that together.
You may want to pull the vicious dog ordinance that we currently have and look at it.
Is there anybody on
There's
at
6
City Hall?
6.01.32 that's got that section.
Is there anybody at City Hall that's been working on this that
I drafted this ordinance.
would you like to draft a separate vicious, or would you like me to? I don't care either way.
I don't mind. To you guys.
Yeah, just a separate to just
just
point
on vicious
to-
dogs.
just to get that passed next month.
That might,
Okay. I can.
What's the number of the vicious?
That's what I don't know the number.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
what I've
not
got.
sure either.
I've
Because-
had it pulled up last week, so. But I don't know either.
84, maybe.
The ordinance number.
I think it's 84.
84.
it used to be.
84.
What's the password?
Right there, Goshen 417.
Right here.
$84.
Yes.
I'm just gonna pull it up so we can look at it as a group. Everybody can see it. So it talks about.
Going on down to G, I think that's the broad one that Max was referring to.
Acts in a manner that causes or should cause its owner to know that it is potentially vicious.
So that would be
growling
wouldn't have bitten somebody, but it would still be deemed vicious.
I wish Jason were here because he and I spoke about that at detail about when they can actually enforce and take a dog. And I think that was where,
Big bite and it's percent all, and you get 2 or more dog bites.
yeah. So they can't actually intervene or do anything until the dog has bitten a person or gotten into 2 or more dog fights. Yeah.
It says acts in a manner that causes or should cause its owner to know that it is potentially vicious.
But I think the enforcement of it, and I don't know this well enough to know, but
You
I
have
think
to
the
notice
enforcement of it.
a notice to the owner. And I'm sure we did that, I think with a registered letter, or Jason went out in person. I can't remember. It's been a few years.
And it looks like they have 5 days to remove the animal.
But that's if we know who the dog's owner is. Some of these we don't even know who the dog belongs to.
Yeah. I mean, if they're vicious strays, they just want to be picked up.
But we don't
If
have a
they
way to
show
pick them up.
Well, I'm saying, through
Yeah.
an ordinance, if they show aggression. we
But
need
right
to-
now we don't have a way to pick them up. We don't have any way. We don't have any way to actually pick up the animal. We don't have a kennel to put them in. We don't have any way to actually
Nobody
apprehend.
trained.
We don't have. Yeah, we don't have anybody that's trained to do it. That's part of the issue. I mean, we looked into classes. We have to send Dave and Ivan to a class to become trained to become an animal enforcement officer. So, and the minimum is, I think, Lacey, do you remember? Is it the training on that animal enforcement? Was it 2 days?
I think it's only a day.
Okay.
So it's not always the one. Sorry.
Yeah.
It was longer than that if they use sedative.
Yeah, there's a separate training class, but if you're going to use like a sedative or dart gun for them, maybe smaller.
It gets the job done.
It's coming after my kids. No loose.
Yeah,
That's right.
Mine's named Old Bessie.
So is there
All right,
something,
so we're gonna bring something back.
is there something in this ordinance that would allow for the pickup though?
it's not allowed. We don't have a mechanism by which to pick the animal up right now.
But you're gonna work on it.
Well,
That-
yeah, but it's difficult for me to send our guys for training for becoming animal enforcement
without
because
knowing.
I need to know whether we're going to actually have an animal enforcement ordinance because it's a cost to the city. It's training that's requiring staff to go off for training, and then we've got to have a kennel built, and we've got to get the proper equipment to be able to apprehend these animals.
Well, Russell, I don't doubt that we're gonna have an ordinance, okay? It's just, we just have to finalize it.
So should we go ahead
Get
and enroll them in the training,
But,
get them
well,
ready?
I think
you
so.
know, if we wait, it's gonna be next year before we're,
Oh, I'm aware things don't move real fast.
I mean,
Do you want a motion? Or somebody want to make a motion to go ahead and have our
I'll make a
city
motion.
employees and trained in animal
Animal
handling?
enforcement.
When you want, I'll make a motion to pursue that.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second for pursuing animal training for our city employees in the facilities management department.
you want it just a yay or a nay now for a
Well,
vote?
we have to have public
Yeah,
comment.
but for
Public
training.
comment before we vote.
I just want to let you know that it's on it in Friday, only one day.
Okay.
Good.
It's one day of training. she
Any
said.
other public comment before we vote? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion carried. So we'll get them enrolled. And we will bring back, I guess, a vicious dog.
Just to make sure that it passes, like, I
Just a
think that we're,
standalone ordinance.
yeah,
right?
standalone, because I know that everybody's gonna be in favor of that, but I don't know what's gonna come out of, and I think there's gonna be delays in getting the larger ordinance passed.
We'll bring that back.
So we've read this.
We read it once, we have to read it
For the
two more
first
times.
reading. And we've made the approval to go ahead with the employees.
Yep.
And you're gonna do a separate vicious dog deal. Is that correct?
I think Russell's gonna work on, I'll just send a couple of things that I'd like to see in it over to Brian, and then he can consolidate the two. If that works for everybody.
And any changes you guys
We
feel
understand.
necessary to
We
the,
just had the first reading, that's
Yeah.
all.
So we may just need to amend ordinance 84 rather than throw everything out. Because the definition is very, very similar. It's actually more detailed on 84 than it is
in that,
here.
And what's that? Ordinance 84?
84.
okay.
We allow.
Can you guys use your mics?
Yeah,
So
we have to add that.
public is asking that we use our mics to be able to hear. All right, so we're gonna move on to the ordinance establishing business licenses.
About time.
There you go. I was gonna say this is something that we've talked about, actually quite a few times. In your packet, I've drafted a letter that more or less is just kind of a registration announcement that we are gonna be requiring licenses. It gives all businesses in Goshen till the end of the year to get registered. There will be no fees actually collected for any of that until 2025, and business licenses will be due by January 31st of 2025. Business license fees are gonna be $50. We'll have a grace period that lasts until the end of March, and then after March, we will start incurring a $25 a month late fee. So,
Just it's initially a $50 fee.
correct, that's due, so it's technically due by the end of January 1st, but I talked with other cities and we do like kind of a grace period. So they'll have until the end of March to actually turn those in with no late fees assessed. But then starting as of April 1st, they'll accrue a $25 per month late fee. New businesses that register like in the middle of the year, they'll be prorated.
I guess my concern with this is for all the farms that are around here that are LLCs. Their businesses, they're gonna be included.
They're not exempt, yeah.
And then if that's the case, you think about your average farmer, farm, et cetera, and, their place of business, I'm not sure how that fits into, the business requirements list, because,
Let me ask a question that might.
I think if you're doing business as a farmer and you have an LLC, I would say that $50 is not a lot to assess.
No,
But
that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about meeting all of the business requirements list that is also here, certificate of occupancy, all of those items that are there.
So you're saying he's got an LLC and he's selling vegetables out of the back of his truck?
So if you look at the business license application, that's actually considered a home-based business, and those people actually have to come into City Hall because there are actually exceptions, right? So they're like a certificate of occupancy, things like that. You're gonna look at that for more of like your commercial-based businesses. So there's gonna be a little bit of leniency with those home-based businesses.
So is there a
Lacey,
difference?
is this gonna be in the growth area as well as the,
We can only enforce.
only the city proper, which would eliminate a lot of the,
They're still
no,
in,
no, I
yeah.
understand, but it would eliminate a lot of the farmers, if you would, that are not in the city limits.
But we can only enforce this in city limits.
Barry, can you scroll down? This might give us some clarity. One more.
Oh, you're talking about this one?
So if I'm the farmer with an LLC, I'm not gonna have fire extinguishers, I'm not gonna have an occupancy listed, I'm not
Correct,
gonna
just like if you're at home and you have an eBay
Right.
business, you're not necessarily gonna have like a fire extinguisher and things like that. I think that, like I said, there are gonna be exceptions. A lot of the business requirements that are listed here are actually per fire code. So those are your restaurants,
Sure.
your gas stations, things like that.
I think
So I guess my question is there a different list for the farmer selling vegetables out of his truck?
When I spoke with the fire chief, this is kind of what his recommendation was based, and we actually also looked at the city of Tawnytown, that's where this was pulled from. So we can go through that and get different requirements, but again, this was.
I'm not trying to add work.
You're right.
My example, no, they're not gonna do that. And so if that's a requirement for you to get a business permit, they're not gonna get a business permit.
Right, and I think that's why at the top of it, it says that applications for home-based businesses must be made in person. Because we realize those home-based businesses are gonna have exceptions.
But what if,
But those exceptions need to be listed and you have to know why, and so there has to be kind of like an interview process to figure that out.
That seems incredibly subjective.
yeah, why don't you just have a list for establishments that have a business location, like an Anderson's or whatever, okay, down here, and then for a home-based business,
Have a different application.
have a different business requirements.
Sure,
You know, if you're.
That's what I'm
yeah,
saying, is
because-
that then you don't leave anything
correct.
to
And I
one
think that
saying,
that was.
well,
the-
they don't have to do that, or, okay, and it's listed.
I think that that's probably the end goal. This is like something that we're still kind of, I guess, new with. Yeah, I'm going off recommendations. Yeah,
Yeah, and well,
Yeah.
that's my recommendation, okay?
absolutely.
You know, one thing we discuss over and over again here is that anything that's subjective is not enforceable or is
Oh,
not,
absolutely.
yeah. And so, you know, if we were essentially, and you know, you have a business that's a business with public coming in and they say, I have to do all these things, but that person doesn't, how come they don't, you know, and I do. You
Sure,
know,
and
again,
I
yeah.
guess my
Yeah.
question is like, cause like, this is not the first time that this has been up for discussion. I would appreciate you guys would reach out. You guys give me your input
Okay.
so that we can put something together that everybody's happy with.
And, you know, I think we probably need to reach out to some of these actual business owners and say, you know, what do you think? Where are your problems? What are the issues that we can remedy on the front side of this?
I guess, could you elaborate a little bit more on
Like,
reaching out
you know,
to,
as
like,
far
a
as, like-
care
like-
versus a
Right. You know, one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reach out to some of those neighbors that I have that are farm LLCs and say, hey, you know, tell me your opinion on this. So, you know, but again, didn't have time to do that before the meeting tonight kind of deal. So, but you know, I just want to get some opinions of the public that are, the neighbors that are around that this would genuinely affect. And that, you know, it's gonna be one more thing they're gonna have to do every year in addition to
I also
everything
urge
else.
you to reach out to like outside of Goshen as well.
Well, but
So-
I agree with Paula with the fire, like, you know, listed here is fire sprinkler system. I guarantee you that Poncho's does not have a fire
Of course
sprinkler
not.
system.
They're supposed to, though.
So, but they
Depends on
don't.
what fire code they're under.
Yeah,
That's true.
so,
But again.
so that's
this
gonna be
is-
the other, that the question is, does this really apply to every single business in Goshen? Which you know, I can see that. Cause it may not. I don't know.
Why are we doing this? Why
So,
are we doing?
at this point, we don't have any way to even track who has a business in our city. And so we don't know what businesses are operating. If we get calls from somebody and they say, well, you know, we hear that you have this business in the city, we can't tell you whether we do or we don't within the city. Almost all cities have some sort of business license that is
Yeah, I
required
was
for
surprised that we did.
a business. I didn't know that we didn't either.
I
But
mean, I knew we didn't have
I
one.
also think that there leaves room for, like inspections, right? So even if you have a farm, I think you have to uphold some kind of like FDA or health department regulation, something with your, like, and this is, again,
we
I
get,
don't know.
we
I'm
get
not
audited by the Department of Agriculture. You have
There
to
you go.
submit a form to the Department of Agriculture every year for anything that you produce. So that's how we are audited at the agricultural level. Usually it's not a city
Right.
inspector that's coming through to inspect our, you
Well, we
know,
don't have a city
properties.
inspector that inspects our commercials. That's actually a fire chief for the fire department inspects for the commercial businesses. But if they don't know that they're there,
I support
But
us
you
having
can bet that,
business.
you can bet that Ponchos and Andersons and Best Bet, they're all being inspected by the city of Fayetteville.
they're actually being inspected by Goshen Fire Department, but
No, I'm talking because they serve food.
The health department.
At the health
the
department,
health department, correct, but they also
Okay.
get fire inspections from the Goshen Fire Department.
yes. Yeah.
And if they don't have an adequate sprinkler system, like the Brad's not here, I didn't realize that this was gonna get this involved. I'm actually kind of glad that it is, but we can bring in Brad as well because there's circumstances that they have to do as well when they do their inspections, and there's a checklist that they go through.
But we don't have fire sprinkler systems in our city
So we can-
buildings either.
Why don't you guys, if you guys have concerns or questions about these business requirements as I do, I think we'd just talk to Lacey about some of those, see if we can't, maybe change or alter some of that. And then we can bring.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean,
yes. I was asked to throw something together, and this is what I came up with. So
Okay.
absolutely.
I mean, I know there's a lot of people who have LLCs.
Who
Okay.
asked you to put them
I'll bet you
Put
there's
this together. The mayor.
I did.
30, a minimum of 30 just in Waterford. I was one of them, but I just closed mine in December.
Yeah.
You know.
Too much money.
Huh? Well, I'm not gonna pay the
He's got
the
you
license was gonna be too much.
Well, I hope at $50 wouldn't be too much. I know Huntsville they do theirs like based on employees. Springdale's is 40. Elkins, I think theirs is like
There's a 75.
75.
And I don't know, maybe you have two levels. Maybe for a home LLC, it's $25 a year. For a
Yeah,
business
actually,
like
Thought
Anderson's,
that Elkins was
it's
25, but
$50,
right.
I mean, it's just because you're not only generating a little bit of income,
We really want to know what business. they're
but
gonna
it's
say.
but even at $25, it's still gonna give you the information you want.
I'm not set on a
I think
fee.
that-
I just think we need to be able to get our businesses registered. We need to know who's doing business in the city. And we need to have a list of all those people.
There was a lady that moved in next door to Veterans Animal Hospital, and she called Fayetteville and said, I need a business license. My insurance is requiring that I have a business license. Fayetteville said, you're not in our area, we can't give you one. So she called Goshen, we're like, you're not in our area, we can't give you one. And she's actually pretty disappointed that she couldn't get one. So
Where is she?
I think she was moved in next door to Veterans Animal Hospital.
Little strip mall.
So-
Yeah, that little, yeah,
Y'all need to table this
Yeah.
and.
Yeah.
Yep.
More work needs to go into it.
absolutely.
We'll bring it back.
Thanks
Okay,
for putting
all
it
right.
together.
you've got some,
Good Lord, somebody shut
Make a motion to table it.
All right, we have a motion to table it.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, table. If you guys can please send, anything that you'd like to see to us at City Hall, we'll try to include that for next time. Resolution for farmer's market, item C. I don't think we have.
There's not a resolution on it. This was brought up, I guess it was last month.
So last month, this was brought up, and discussed, and I think Liz actually presented a proposal for a resolution. And it was, you requested so that they could finalize some sort of formal agreement between the city and the farmer's market. And so, Brian and I talked earlier in the month and just kind of discussed some things as far as concerns citizens had, and kind of what the resolution should look like.
Yeah, so the Constitution says that you all cannot donate or give funds to a private organization.
right,
Also to a charitable nonprofit. The question is allowing use of this, does it fit within that, and therefore are we prohibited from doing that? I know you talked to Caleb at Municipal League, there's not a black and white answer, but I think the safe answer is to err on the side of not allowing that. And in doing that, then it would be you all deciding what groups would be allowed to use it under what scenarios. An annual fee, I think, was mentioned. Kashana suggested that idea, which I think makes sense for farmers market. Any other, nonprofit groups that are using it would also need to have some sort of a fee schedule set for their use so that we're in compliance across the board.
So we just need
We do have a
to,
rental fee, though. We
well,
have a rental fee for citizens that rent the building per time. We do. We have that set. And then we have or a resolution that we allow the EHC, which is not really a nonprofit. They're not even an organized,
Right.
group as far as the 501c3. They're just a group from the extension
Mhm.
cooperative. So, but we've allowed them to use the building once a month for their meetings. And so, and in talking to Caleb and talking to Brian, the question is, because we got into the audit when we were giving money to the fire department. Because we
Right.
gave $2,000 to the fire department, the auditor said, well, you can't do that. And we're like, well, why can't we do that?
We've
Well,
been
we
doing that.
can't, as a city, just give money to an agency for no specific reason. Kind of like, well, we're suggesting that if you could construe this as we're giving you the use of the building for free, which is money in kind because of no charge, we can't necessarily do that. Now, we're not saying we want to charge the EHC, the $100 fee every time they rent the building. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying that about the farmers market either. We're saying we don't want to get in trouble at an audit, and we don't want to have, complaints from citizens about, well, you do this for one group and you don't do it for the other, or how do we want to make it where we're complying with the law, but we're also making it, conducive for these groups that we want to be a part of the city to be able to utilize our facilities and not pay the set fee per time to rent it. Does that make sense?
what I mean, can we just say if it is a open to the public organization that benefits the community, that we charge a $1 yearly fee for the use of the building? Can we do that?
No, I disagree.
What's your definition of benefit?
Well, and again, I don't know. Again, or just a publicly open, community centered organization of or open to Goshen residents. I don't know. I'm just trying to put something out there that
Well,
there is something.
And I will share with you guys that the complaints, I have fielded these complaints since I've been in office, and most of the time I would just not really do a whole lot about it, but I had to listen to the complaints about, well, why are we letting an LLC use city facilities when they make a profit? Well, this group was not organized to make a profit. They were organized to provide a service to the city. It was developed as an LLC because that's the way they operate, and it's easier to organize and to maintain an LLC than a 501c3. As far as the regulations, this, right? So that from my understanding, and there's a couple of ladies here, that was the reason for why they created an LLC and not a 501c3. There's some drawbacks to that. They can't apply for funding from certain entities because they're not a 501c3. But then again, the difficulty is that there's this impression, and not from me, but from other people maybe in the city, that we shouldn't be allowing an LLC that could potentially be making a profit use city space for no charge. And so that's been the concern that's come back to me on numerous occasions. And I said, well, they do a service for the city by putting on the farmers market. People enjoy coming to the city, buying goods at the farmers market. I don't know the answer. I don't really know what the solution is. I just know that we need to be transparent. We need to be consistent however we do it. Whatever you guys decide, I would follow that lead. I just don't know. And Brian and I both, we don't know either. We're like,
it's in y'all's hands.
It's up to you guys.
Well, I feel, and I have for a long time, that an LLC is a for-profit organization, okay? And they do make a profit, and they rent tables for booths for $200 a piece, okay? And they have a lot of tables to go out there.
It's very incorrect. We'd love to clarify that.
So
There will be a public input, please.
Just want to make sure you're speaking truth.
okay, and they have an employee or more, I don't know, but they have at least one, okay, and that person is paid. And if we do that, then every person who has a LLC can come and say, okay, you've got them doing it, and that's basically what you were saying, that we have to be transparent, and we have to treat everybody basically equally for certain things. And they're also doing the farmer's market at the brewery now. Friday or Saturday, I'm not sure the exact day, but they are doing it there, so they're also making a profit there from renting booths. So I don't think that we can say, okay, let's charge them $1 a year. I think they should pay, not an absorbent amount, but they should pay. They store their stuff right here in this storage unit. I mean, the doors open to them, they come in here, they use the facilities. I don't know what happens, okay, about if there's something messed up in here. Is it clean? I don't know that part of it, okay? I'm sure that there's people at City Hall that do. That's my belief, and there are citizens who have approached me on those very items. That's why
So we will allow for public comment. I want to let the council speak to this before we do, and then we'll open it up to public comment. Any other council input?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer. Let me say that up front. And there probably is a difference between a nonprofit 501c and a LLC. Maybe that distinction is based on what you pay to use it once a month, once a year, whatever the case may be. But I also think this is a community building. We're bringing community in to use a community building, which benefits our community. So I don't think we put a lock on the door, and I don't think we say it's $10,000 to rent it for the year. I think that's ludicrous.
Agreed.
and that's what I
But
was saying.
likewise, we have entities such as POAs or what have you, right? So to your point, it shouldn't be something that they're paying an exorbitant amount of money compared to everybody else.
Right.
From a community aspect to utilize it. So just please keep that in consideration.
Yeah,
And I think
and that's what I
Riverside-
was saying.
You guys use it for POA? Is there
I
a
don't
fee?
know if that was a fee or.
I think that we agreed that we were gonna let,
No, they, as I recollect it, they placed a deposit in case something was broken, damaged, etc. And we have that.
But point being is, we should be consistent across the board. with
Yeah.
Everybody, right? And develop whatever that rule setting is for each entity.
And that's what I was saying when I said, I'm not saying that the fee should be up in the sky. It's just something needs to be done, and it's not just, pay us $10 and we'll move on.
So one thing we do in the neighborhood is we've got a clubhouse. You can have a private reservation or a non-private reservation. If you have a private reservation, you pay X amount, you don't get it back. If you have a non-private reservation, you pay X amount, you get it back. But if you're in there doing Girl Scouts and I would come downstairs and watch a football game, I can walk in and watch a football game.
Yeah.
Most people are very respectful and don't do that, but that's one way.
The giving the money part back, I think, is what we have to avoid.
How much is it?
how much what?
How much is it? $100?
So, right now it's $100 to rent the community building, for a full day. So if you wanna rent the building, from the morning till the night, you pay $100. And then there's a deposit that goes with it, and then you get the deposit back.
Yeah.
So that's for anybody that lives within the city. And if you live outside the city, Lacey, is the fee?
So these $200, you're not
Yeah.
looking at $100 per citizen.
Yep.
To clarify, I was pretty sure, any POA that wants to come and use the community building, there is no fee.
Yeah. And I think that we did that by having them give a deposit.
There was no-
That's
there was no
correct.
money exchange.
It was just, if something was damaged, that money,
The
we,
fee and the POA, they're not established at all.
But I did think there was something that came up at one of the meetings, and I was here at that meeting. I think it was before I was mayor, where they requested to use the building. I think it was Riverside, and it was back in November. Yeah,
that's correct.
but I think they did. But they did pay.
But they
a
did have
deposit,
to,
I
they
think.
did have to put a deposit.
I think they did.
It was.
This was before us, Lacey. I think this was like in November of 2022. Yeah.
And they paid the deposit.
I don't know that there was a
We'd
deposit.
have to go back and look. I
That
don't know.
was supposed to be.
Regardless, that still doesn't solve our current problem.
Yeah, that's right. So the current thing is, what do we want to do? How do we want to manage it? How do you guys want to address it? So, my personal feelings are they do bring a service to the city. I think that they bring citizens to the community center. They bring, entertainment oftentimes. They bring food trucks. I personally enjoy it. My kids enjoy it. I see lots of people here from all over the city at the community building enjoying the farmers market.
Elkins has their community center. Do we know what they do for different organizations?
No.
I'm just curious.
I didn't look
Yeah.
into that, but I
Yeah.
know that Open rent their community building for $75 an hour.
But to any and all groups, like even like because I know they have like their senior citizens that meet there and that kind of thing.
They do, and I have to double check that. I'm not aware of.
Yeah. I just know they have a lot
I
of,
know
yeah.
the municipality rule,
Mhm.
is that we can't donate assets.
Right.
We can't
I understand.
Yeah.
I do understand that, but
businesses,
yeah.
so that's kind of like where we're at.
And so,
And that, I think that's something, and maybe you guys want to discuss it even a little bit more, but I think it needs to be whatever we decide, we apply it to everybody that's bringing a service to the community. So like the EHC, we've not charged anything at all, for the rental of the building. Like the POAs, we haven't charged anything for the POAs.
well, if it's a 501c,
but they're nonprofit.
da-da-da-da,
POA is a
okay,
nonprofit.
they're a
two different
nonprofit.
Well, that's the question. Do you want us to do something? But
For nonprofit.
But even for nonprofits, the city cannot just give things for free. So we're gonna have to change that. The way we've done that is gonna have to change anyway.
But it can be minimal.
It can be minimal. It can be, $50 a year or $100 a year or even $25 a year. I don't know what the right number is. That's for you guys to decide. But we have to come up with some sort of policy, and we have to follow that and maybe it is one is for 501c3s and one is for LLCs. I don't know how you want to do that. So
I think that's the proper way is to have 501c.
well, but like the EHC is not even a 501c3.
Community group, maybe a third one.
I mean, that's the question.
But-
It's like,
And
So
have,
they don't have any at all. They don't have.
they're not a 501c3. They're not any. They're a group that meets, and it's from the Extension Homemakers, Extension Service from the Washington County. Yeah, and they built this building,
Sure.
and they were part of the group that established this community building. So, I do feel like that. They deserve to be able to use the building that they built.
well, they brought these chairs in.
They did. I mean, they have given us things. I mean, that is part of they are charged to do community activities and give back to the community.
To your point, it's just a matter of how do you classify that type of group.
Yes.
Well, exactly.
And what do we do as far as the charge for those different groups for the building, the use of the building?
We need a list of the groups we're gonna use and then we go from there.
Well, we have POAs, we have the EHC,
I think the broad groups are LLCs, 501c3s, and community groups.
Yeah.
I think that covers it.
And so what do you want to do as far as the charge? Do you
I'd
want
like to hear from the public.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
so
it-
let's open it up to public comment. Can you guys come up to the podium just so and just tell us who you are, so everybody, when we have this on the meeting minutes.
Before she talks, can I ask a quick question before I as far as the ordinances go, I know Liz mentioned it last time, but Fayetteville, Rogers, Bentonville, I don't know about Springfield. Prairie places actually have ordinances that allow their farmers markets to operate. So where he is saying that it's illegal or that you can't, when they do it.
It's not black and white. What a city cannot do is give money
To donate.
or appropriate funds in any sort of way to a private organization or a nonprofit. Technically, we're not doing that. However, we charge money for usage of this space. So in giving an organization the right to use that is essentially us giving them that value in funds.
And it may be different for those cities because it's not held at a building that they rent out. So it's held outdoors in an area like a parking area.
Yeah.
It's like a public
City
open
square.
area.
Fayetteville Square.
Yeah.
Fayetteville Square.
But I think the
And,
square charges, and y'all certainly know more than I do, I think the square charges those vendors to have that space
That's correct.
outside.
And the botanical gardens as well.
So I think Brian's point is, any goods or services a municipality or federal entity has, unless there's enough for everybody in the population, you can't give anything away. So when I used to work at the VA, we would have extra paper towels, let's just call it. Unless there's enough paper towels for 3,000 employees, I can't take the paper towels home. Because everybody in the city of Fayetteville can't take the paper towels. I mean, really.
True.
It's
It's true. It's so it's bizarre.
It's base level.
All right.
So, I mean, we could be running just the same as the EHC. We could just be like a group of people who, except for we need to pay our manager. So I just want to clarify one more time that those of us who run the farmers market have never made a dime of profit. The profit that we make goes specifically to each vendor. So they pay money to have a booth. And I would like for this due diligence to have been done before this meeting, before we had this conversation. But they pay for a booth, and we actually then give them the space and do all the marketing, and we clear, the fenced row and all that. We make the space for them to then sell their goods, and they make money. So when we announced that we have brought in $150,000 to our vendors over the last 3 years, all of that money has gone to our farmers, our flower growers. None of that has come to us. All of our time has been for free. All of this, and so I'm a real estate agent. I'm seeing in property descriptions around here, proximity to the farmers market. And when we first came here, a lot of our older people said, this reminds me of when we were little. We came to a community building and you brought us back together. So we have received really beautiful feedback about how we're serving the community. And that was our goal, is to serve the community. We have only given our time and our own personal money to make the farmers market happen, to serve the community and bring it together. And so our ask to you would be that you would allow us, because we've been completely dependent on this space. And we don't have free money floating around. The money that we have goes to pay for our manager and for advertising, and then for the free food that we've provided to the community to bring everyone together. So it seems like there would be a way, if there's a way to interpret it one way or the other, we would ask that you would interpret it in the direction where you are saying you can have a farmer's market. We're giving this to you so that you can provide this service, like specifically for the farmer's market.
I think the only problem is, and the way that Brian explained it is, that you're not just a group, you're an LLC. Okay, so that's
That's the
where the
problem.
problem comes in. That's,
Like
I
Paul's
don't agree
idea,
with a lot of what you said.
charge,
I'm
charge a
just saying-
minimum amount, just charge
Huh?
a minimum
I
amount.
understand that, and that's it. That's the only way around it, though.
Right. So can the city charge them $50 a year?
There's not a, it's an
Yeah.
arbitrary number.
Yeah, that, but that's what we were saying.
$50 a year and I'll pay it, please.
I was gonna say, we are not against, we're actually, like, I agree that as things come up, and you guys identify gaps in the relationship. I think the best thing to do is to formalize things, so that we do so right. And as we're asking, if we can't do it separately, that's fine, let's find a number that works for both of us, and I guarantee when we put that message out to community members and say, how can you support us with this week if it happens? So I'm not really worried about that. I'm just worried about the manner in which it's presented, and we really want the conversation around farmers market to be
Positive.
positive and truthful. Like, we have heard the rumors that the MASH is going to need $150,000. It's just.
I've clarified that several times, that it is not the LLC that made $150,000, it was the vendors that had sold their goods there. And yeah, and I think that, and I would say on your part, I think that getting that message out to the community as to that it's not the LLC that is making the money, it's the vendors that you're supporting that are making the money is important. Because I think there is this bizarre understanding that the LLC is making all this money when it's really not. And so I do think there is that discrepancy where people don't understand.
And I'm sorry, for full transparency, I have started to do my research to see what it would take for us to become a 501c3 that's federally tax exempt, because there is that definition. But the issue is what's your policy
To convert.
Yeah. That's what I would research. If I think
So your only top line revenue is the money you receive for the boot rental, space rental for those booths.
And from donors and sponsorships.
Right. But then that money goes directly to help pay for your management and your marketing.
Yep.
Got it.
They don't make anything. We had this meeting, and I asked them.
On the sale?
So that was the other thing I spoke with Caleb at the state, and yes, we are supposed to be collecting taxes from the vendors, which the vendors didn't know that. So that is.
We haven't, but we haven't been.
So we haven't been.
been.
But that's the discussion I have to have with the farmers market, because they are supposed to be. So there's only certain goods that can be sold without sales tax. Most of them, they have to have a sales tax attached. So, but that would give us revenue, yeah.
And I don't know do you know if, I know the food truck charges a sales tax.
Yeah.
Okay. But are we getting it back, or is it going to pay the bill?
Well, no, that's one thing Lacey and I spoke about as well. As part of this business license, they would also be required to come in and not necessarily get a business license, but it would be a vendor license that we would give them the code to put in to make sure we're getting the sales tax revenue.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is part of the thing we've looked at.
I would like to see them charge fairly minimal amount.
It is a good thing for Goshen to have the farmers market here. However, I think that the EHC should be an exemption, because they make no money and they provide a service to the city, bringing people together as well. But they do not collect funds for anything that they do. All of the things that and the events that they do are out of pocket from the members of that club. So it's not a situation to where somebody comes in and they say, well, you owe us so much money to be able to be a part of our club. So I really would like for you to look at that. Even if you charge the EHC $1, I just don't see that they fit in the same category as the farmers market.
No.
I think we're all in agreement.
We're all in agreement with all of that. You know, we're not looking to
So
make money per se.
I, from my perspective, looking at it through the lens of the audit, looking at it through the lens of municipal government, I would be totally comfortable with charging the EHC $5 a year. I will pay the $5 a year. I would be totally comfortable with charging the farmer's market $100 a year. I will pay the $100 a year. I really don't mind.
Jason's paying 50.
Oh, then 50-50. There we go. All right. But I mean, I think it needs to be not something that is ridiculous, but something that is, you know, it shows that we are in agreement with let them use the facilities for a nominal fee, that we can at least say to our auditor, this is what we charge them. This is compliance. I think that makes it clear. It's not hurting anybody. You know, $5 for the EHC or any other nonprofit. That's not a big issue. Isn't it? Yes, we do. Yeah. So
So Brian, can we have a different amount?
you have to.
Can we charge different amounts
Sure.
to different people?
And just deal with the gripes as they come.
Hey, I can deal with a gripe if we have a policy in place to be able to respond to it.
So to
But
be
the
reasonable,
problem has been, we don't have anything in place right now. When I get these complaints, I have to go, well, I don't know. We don't really have a formalized agreement.
so audit won't get into the details of, well, you were there for 8 hours, you used 8 kilowatts of energy, you used 10 gallons of water.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But I think we set it up right. And so, I mean, I would say if it's $1 for the fire, $1 for nonprofits, $50 for community groups, and $100 for LLCs annually.
Okay.
That's a suggestion.
Well,
I'm okay with that.
That's what I was saying. You know, you're right.
You guys, other discussion,
I was
council?
trying to remember when the rent on the community building went up, because it used to be like $35.
Well, it was $50 and we raised it to 100 because of, what part of the problem was we were renting it, but then oftentimes it wasn't getting cleaned. And so we decided that a $50 cleaning fee would be attached to it. And so that we raised it to 100 for that reason. So every time it gets used, it gets cleaned now. So, and that is, it does take time to clean the building after someone's been here. And even the best tenants that come in and use it, it's still not really sometimes ready for the next people. So we have to have someone come in. So that's why we raised it to 100 for citizens and then 200 for non-citizens, because we really wanted to focus on the citizens of Goshen being able to come in and use the facility.
So what was your suggestion, Bert?
$1 for nonprofits annually, $50 for community groups
POA and such? Or-
annually, and $100 for LLCs annually.
And where does the EHC would fall into the $1?
$1.
Yeah, go for it.
They're not, you said nonprofit?
They're not.
50 per nonprofit.
They're not, no,
501.
but the EHC is not a nonprofit or 501c3. It's like just
It's
an
just
entity.
people. Yeah.
Can we just
Community, we'd say public community groups? Or open to the public community groups?
I like that.
Open to the public community groups.
Because that's really, because again, if you're open to the public, then you need, that's where you would qualify for the lesser rate. Is open to the public community groups, is that?
We try it.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I understand.
I mean, I think
Come up with a name, Brian.
it's better than open to the public community groups.
I'm writing that down.
Is there a difference between not-for-profit and non-profit?
No,
I
it's
don't
the
think
same.
so. No.
Okay.
Just a suggestion, but I think that gets us.
I think that's what I was.
The suggestion again is $1 for Paula's open to the public group, 50 for a nonprofit, 100.
No,
100
50
for
50
LLC
for
community.
Community
what-
group.
community groups that are not necessarily open to the, because I don't think a POA would be open to the
No,
public.
POA
So,
is not open.
so
Community
just
group's
say
not open to the
community
public.
groups.
50.
yeah,
Annual.
Yeah,
and-
$50.
Unlimited 4 meetings per year, according to the time.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna be down here partying every weekend, aren't you? with your PO? I tell you, last time there was a lot of people came in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
there
we're
were.
an annual meeting,
Is
so-
that why?
Yeah.
I will tell you that since we've renovated, we've renting it a lot more.
Oh, that's a good thing.
But again, to your point, you gotta cover
Yeah,
your expense from a clean perspective.
toilet paper and, trash bags and all that stuff too.
What do you have, council?
$1 for Paula's group and nonprofits.
We're gonna call it Paula's group, right?
Paula's group.
$50 for community groups that are not open to the public, such as POAs that are not incorporated. And then $100, and these are
Annual fees.
and $100 for
LLC.
LLC, corporation,
We got you covered.
partnership, sole proprietorship, all that stuff.
Per annum.
Yes.
Yeah,
And is there a limitation on the usage?
I would say, well,
You could probably say the POAs are biannual. I don't,
Well-
y'all meet more than,
We have, well, depends on what comes
would-
up, but normally it's twice a year.
I would just say,
I mean, we meet monthly as a board, but
yeah,
correct.
I would say, 12 times a year. I know that well, I would say 12 times a year for the $1 and the $50 rate. And then, maybe we just, do we have to put a limit on it?
no,
Lori's going, is they're gonna have
Oh,
some group that wants to use it
Really?
15 times a year and only pay $50.
We can always come back, if we have an LLC that says I want to start using this, then they, weekly
Well,
use,
we need to cap it on the front end
Yeah.
and expand it later if necessary.
And that's what I say, at least a quarterly for a POA.
how many,
That's probably more than what you got.
how many weeks are you open for?
24 weeks.
And we have.
But do have a
They have some of
Christmas,
the meetings,
We only
some of
have
the,
November and December. What about when we have an annual application
yeah.
with a minimum that's included in that with the exemption based on an application?
I would like an application.
Yeah.
I really would, because for us at City Hall, I want to know it's not just some
Yeah.
local yokel wanting to come in here and have a
We can
swap.
say,
meet.
upon,
Local yokel.
I think,
yeah.
so
Yeah,
how
I mean, that
many,
would
how
be-
many weeks?
That's part of the rental
I
agreement.
would say, how many days?
Well, how many,
For the market itself, but then we have a once a month. It's probably 28.
so say 30.
Or
think
say something less than that, and then groups such as the farmers market can come and ask for a variance from that to allow additional use.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we want something that's more.
More restricted.
fit
Oh, okay.
A
Allow.
lot of
So-
different uses.
So say
So say
25.
Let's say 12 for all
12 for all those, because that's meeting once a month.
And I would put in there that any group that is potentially wanting to use would need to fill out an application request at City Hall and be approved prior to being authorized to utilize the facility.
Yep.
Because we need to be able to review what's coming in.
Yep. They need to be
So-
able to schedule them and all that.
And we've got to look at our schedule, Kashana's got that
Yep.
schedule where she knows
Right.
exactly who's here on what days and when cleanings occur.
Say somebody like calls up to the city hall and they're like, hey, we're an organization, we want to review the building in 2 weeks. The city has to have a board, like, city council?
No, it depends on, if they're just renting the building, they're gonna pay the rental fee.
Okay.
The only people that are wanting to do consecutive rentals,
The only
they
time
have
that,
to apply.
if they're gonna exceed 12 times a year of usage, they would have to come, the application would have to come before city council.
12 times a year.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is everybody in agreement with those?
Yes.
And there can be waivers for
Variances.
increased use
Right.
or
At
no.
least it gets us away from it.
all that.
Liability.
Change your mind.
All right, we got that. Moving on.
All right, thank you guys, and thanks for coming tonight. so we've got that city council planning commission follow-up. Is there anything about the meeting you guys
Well, we've
want to
already
discuss?
talked about some of it.
Is there anything you guys want to provide to the community, or you guys want to discuss here about that meeting? I know Birch wasn't at the meeting, Colton wasn't at the
Well,
meeting.
I think most of it was in fact planning commission. Okay, and Brian, you and the mayor and Christina talked about
No, Lace.
they were gonna go do some, you were gonna do some homework, is that for?
The planning commission is gonna have a public hearing at next month's meeting to address some changes to the subdivision regulations.
Yes.
Right.
And then,
One key takeaway that I remember specifically is around the tandem lot split, right?
Yeah.
And how many are allowed before that roadway has to be approved.
Yep.
And to me, it's after the initial split. Because you think about it, if you're 2 acre minimum, your road frontage at that point, by the time that second one gets split, and they've got to improve that, it's gonna be a pretty significant amount of
It is.
expense
Yep.
to get it up to code, at least at that point. And we're not talking about asphalt, right? We're talking about a road bed.
Yep. It's road bed
And with that
gravel.
road bed, do we have to have compaction tests?
Well,
it's all part of
Again,
the conversation.
that's all part of the
Part of the
conversation.
That's
And-
all
But
part
to
of,
support the weight of the vehicle, but how else are you gonna really do that unless you
Yeah.
have something of that nature?
it's not, right now, it's not listed in our ordinance, in our zoning
But
regulations.
to me, that was a main takeaway, because if you don't do that, right, you wind up in your single lane situation, and now the person at the end of that quarter-mile road.
And I would say the other takeaway was the exceptions that we have for
Yes.
5 acres,
Yes,
you know,
yeah.
being that limit of, well, if you're over 5 acres, you're good. Well, then you're good. You can do whatever you want. All these rules don't apply to you now.
Yeah.
So that I think is another thing. And
What about the gates?
other, the
And-
gates, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the other one.
Yeah, the gates, they're basically kind of looking at doing variances, possibility. Really, it seems like it seemed like it was concluded from the gates was that unless if you buy into a subdivision, as a person buying into a subdivision without a gate, that, it seems like one good point that was made was that it really should be everybody that's a resident.
100% of the
100% of the residents should be in favor of having a gate before.
I would-
you construct.
Personally, I would argue that though, however, because if the original developer was going by the current covenant, he knows that they can't put a gate.
Right. And,
So therefore,
Yeah.
now you're saying, well, you bought into,
and,
So,
again, that's a
100%?
variance, yeah.
maybe it's more like a 75, but
But yeah.
point being, is,
Yeah.
right?
Point being though, and, they were like, well, we really need to look into in the future also if we do allow future subdivisions potentially to have gates, that needs to be a variance potentially also. And so again, just, looking at, that we do want to have the connectivity, but if, and connectivity between, future potential additional subdivisions, one after another, and that we need to preserve that and, preserve that potential. But, if there are individual subdivisions that they are geographically constrained where they have one outlet anyway, and they decide they want a gate and they propose that from the very beginning, maybe that should be an allowed.
But it would be a variance,
It would be a
allowable
variance.
variance. Yeah. So we were not, the discussion was about, we don't want to support people coming in and just putting in gates for gated communities, but that if there was a real reason why they wanted a gate, we would have a pathway for a variance on the front end. And then that way you're not trying to retrofit communities that were not intended to have a gate with a gate because of the egress and the ingress in and out and stacking and all those things that come with it.
so with that, the planning commission is gonna
Come together.
come together in their meeting, because you can't do anything as far as voting and whatnot
So
in
part of it
a
is
work session.
yeah, so part of it is we agreed that Lacey's gonna work with Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning. We're gonna actually come up with a proposed new zoning, some of the new zoning regulations, and then bring those back to Planning Commission. Planning Commission would therefore look at those, review those, change those, we would make those adjustments and then bring it to council. And then council would have, input before anything was decided, and then that would be changed at that time. Lacey, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a question. We have a public hearing based on the variance process. The variance process, it was suggested to do it two different ways, whether it was on the front end, on the developer side, or whether it was after the development was, I think it was like 50 to 75% after those homeowners purchased into the subdivision. Which is your recommendation, I guess, to planning commission on the front end or on the back end after citizens have moved in? And then just to clarify, POAs, when they take a vote, they only have to have 75% of the population or of the citizens within the subdivision to say yes or no, we want something. So how could planning commission or how could city council ask for a POA to have 100% if the POA only asks for 75?
The city can ask for anything.
Yeah, we can make the
Yeah.
ordinance or the rule, whatever.
And
we
that's what they would have to
The
change.
POA covenants don't have any bearing on what the city would do or not do.
So would it just be just for that variant situation?
If that's what they were talking
If
about doing.
Okay.
I would personally rather see the, the gate at the very front end of a subdivision plan and plat, whether it's there or not.
The request for
The
variance.
request for a variant, because again, once you start getting some people in, having something change or, even change from, you get into a housing contract and then the gate goes up and you're like, how did this happen kind of deal?
So
But yeah.
I guess kind of a hypothetical, if you preliminary approve a gated community because the developer says, I want a gate for safety reasons, what have you, we're gonna put a gate in. Then you have people move in, the people that move in are like, yeah, we know we bought into a gate, but we don't really like it. 75% of that POA says, we don't want the gate anymore. Wouldn't we have to let them take that gate down?
We
Yeah.
can't stop them from removing it.
Yeah. This isn't about removing it, it's just about whether or not we
We
allow
have
it.
nothing to say. If they want to rip it down, they can.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's up to them.
It was just a question that had came up to me that was 75 versus 100% and where PO is allowed to make.
We
those
have no
decisions.
control over them taking it down.
All right, so any other follow-up on that before we move on? To item E, destruction affidavit? No? Okay. So, the destruction affidavit, let me pull it up.
So Mayor, while you're pulling it up, there's
There it is.
National Archives, there's retention policy. I mean, it's pretty black and white.
Yep.
So all the
This follows all of that.
Okay.
And the only thing that we are required to come to the council to request approval to be able to destroy documents.
Yep.
So specifically, I think it's the budget documents that were.
The accounting records.
The accounting records. So we have accounting records back to 1983.
So
So,
That's a fire hazard at that point.
I mean, we literally upstairs in that attic just have boxes, boxes, boxes of stuff that we don't need to keep. It's not required. It's not, there's no reason why we're keeping all those documents.
So specifically, the retention timeframes in here, that came directly from NARA or whoever's the governing body
All
for
that.
retention. Okay.
Mayor, is there any possibility that it has to be archivable historical value? The special collections office will extend documents that are historical value.
I mean, if you want bank records from 1983, I mean, that's what these
I
are.
don't know what all.
I don't know that these are worthy of those kinds of historical memories.
They do have that listed in which record retention information is that, but it's like 50 years.
The only thing I'd like to see kept is the audio recordings.
I think we have all the audio recordings.
But I think that on maybe that paper it had audio recordings.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it
something
did.
It
like-
wasn't being kept, but I think that I know your daughters would appreciate that having those eventually.
I mean, it had 3 years,
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah,
3
I would
years
really like to see those.
for audio recordings.
Yeah, you all can set your own policy.
Yeah, that's less, or that's more restrictive
Correct.
than what the state is. Yeah,
I mean,
because we got the state rules and regs that we have to follow.
I can't. And then then it went further on, and your written minutes, okay?
The written minutes.
I don't believe our 7 years or 10 years, whatever it was.
The minutes are never
No.
destroyed.
Yeah,
Minutes are
Okay,
never.
that's right.
those are kept in the safe
Okay.
forever.
However, written minutes are not a complete synopsis of the meeting. So why would you take your recorded minutes that have everything
Well,
and get rid of them after 3 years?
y'all can keep the
No,
audio recording, but the
I'm just
rationale,
making a statement.
the rationale is the reason you want to maintain the minutes is because that's what verifies that our laws were passed. That's it. Nothing more than that.
Okay.
But you don't want to feel like you guys know that the written minutes are kept forever and the audio minutes are only required to be 9 years.
Well, it says here 3.
She extended that time for avoidable reasons. If anybody comes back in the future, another year and a half later, that was the current preference, to keep them for 3 years. But technically, you only have to keep them for a
For
year.
1 year.
So that was my one question when I got on the phone. The FOIA 3-year requirement I thought was short. Is that, but if it's by the book, that's fine.
The FOIA, say it again.
FOIA in here is for 3 years. I thought it was longer than that.
FOIA request, how long do you have to keep FOIA request? 3 years.
Okay.
But you understand what I'm saying, that
Well, Kyle McGurk had a very good prime example of this. Kyle McGurk had a very prime example of this. He had a complaint against the landscape company. He went back and looked at the minutes from 2022. There was hardly anything on there to describe what you all passed. Okay? If he had got the recording, he would have heard everything.
that's correct.
So if you don't keep the recordings long enough and somebody has a complaint, you've got a problem.
Well, and that's only been, when did we do that?
22.
Colton, 22?
Yeah, but there was not enough in the minutes for him for his complaint. He had to research that
Right.
for his complaint.
But if he had gotten the recording,
Correct.
he would have had everything.
Yeah, for me, it's more. I don't think it's a. I
So
don't
it
want to
can't
use the.
It can't be FOIA'd. They can't be FOIA'd.
Not
It
after,
can be FOIA, but it can't be used as an official record. So if it, like, say we're going to court or something like that, it's
Taking it that far. He just wanted to prove his point. Is my point.
This is
And
what,
it's more for historical value
Yeah.
for me. I know that they would love to have audio recordings from all of them of the historical society that they have. I think that would be of value in the future.
Colton brought up a question about she's reiterating that we can keep them for as long as you want, but it's not official record. Colton said that if you didn't want to keep them past 3 years, something to look into, possibly don't have historical.
So what do you recommend, Cole, for the audio?
I would recommend to not delete those. Make sure that they're kept somewhere.
So
They don't have to be here.
some
Make
of
sure-
audio to permanent records do not destroy.
Yeah, I would really like us to not destroy those.
I would make a motion, if I need a motion, with Colton's change to approve the development of record of destruction administrative policy.
second.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. It's a resolution, so it's just a yea or nay.
Just so you're in.
Yeah,
Any, any public comment before we read and vote?
Your motion is to keep, all right, keep audio recording. To adopt this, but to keep the audio recording.
Drop that, but drop audio recordings. I
Yeah.
think it's 3 years now.
Yeah.
To the do not destroy.
Do not destroy.
indefinite.
What? Ours? Yeah, you must have a lot.
But currently we keep them on flash drives. And
Yeah,
I would
they're-
say in the safe, it's a minimal amount.
Yeah, they're just small.
I mean,
You guys know that she can only confirm audio records from 2023 forward.
Roger that.
Oh, yeah, because we don't know what's on those numbers.
Well,
That is true.
Well, yeah.
So I can't tell you what's on any of those flash drives.
well,
that
I
are in the safe.
understand, but
So we'll,
they were recorded, let's put it that way.
What?
Policy's not in place right now.
Inventory that we have.
so we'll make a change to this and then bring the resolution adopting this revised version back to you all.
There is one little typo on there, which is, after, what is it, active warrants under permanent records on the last page. There's a 0 there
Yep, I saw that too.
on the,
At the end of the typing, there's a 0.
it's
Like,
about
how many years was it
halfway
at
down.
police? How many years?
It's
What?
on the left. Wait, scroll back down. Okay.
I saw it too.
Yeah.
It may have gotten fixed
Different
on my
wait a
copy.
minute.
She may have,
Permanent records do not destroy. Is that what you're under then?
Yep.
Oh,
she may have caught it and fixed it on my version.
right, but I'm not even seeing the active warrant on there. Because it was about waivers. So yeah, we have a line that says, on the first file we got, we have right after case indices for all courts and above waivers, we have a active warrants. And then it has a 0 beside it. So those active warrants need to be on that list that you have.
Yeah. The first one, I think, is 0.
Yeah. So I don't know if,
It's the Word document, I'm not sure. You're on the PDF.
Yeah, but she saved it today, so she may have.
Active warrants are counted.
So
okay,
she took them
so I
off.
took them off. Okay,
Yeah.
all
I
right.
have an updated version,
Okay.
sorry.
As you should, Mayor.
Okay. Cool.
But we'll make changes and bring it back.
And you can bring it back. Okay, so we're gonna move on. So, annexation next steps. So, at this point, I've got a list here of next steps. I would just tell you, but I don't wanna miss. So where's my list? Lacey, you know the next step, so
So this Friday, subcommittee, has been get together to make sure we have. After that, we'll take. Description of that, and that gets to the board, the election board, to create like an area, oops, sorry, not area. That area, it's like its own little group thing, people come.
That's why you need to come to the podium so you don't introduce hair
You know,
disasters.
smack her on the top of that.
So essentially, we have to individually look at each parcel, and then that gets given Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning to come up with the actual legal description of where we're annexing. Because part of that growth area we're not annexing. There's some sections of it we don't want, and then there's a couple of sections that just barely go outside of our growth area. But it's all one continuous parcel on that, so that's why we can do that. So, so that's the next steps. Give you what?
You save money with that, dropping that warranty on
I
your
mean, we're going back to 3. We'll go back to 3.
So those are the next steps.
Then
Once
you'll
we
have a
get
dog
that,
catches.
then we'll be able to go ahead and get it started.
I don't-
And once the election commission takes it, it's pretty much in their hands until it goes to the vote. So, any other questions you guys have?
We'll have to pass an ordinance here at some point,
Next meeting.
the next meeting, okay?
Yep. So,
And Northwest Arkansas Planning is putting all that together.
well, So we're having a meeting on Friday. We take it to Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning. They put that thing together for, but the ordinance itself, they help us create that for the annexation of Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning, right?
That ordinance needs to be created ASAP. Brian is the one that will come up
Well,
with
for
that
next
after
meeting.
the legal
Yeah.
department is pretty in-depth, and then
Once Northwest Arkansas Planning finishes theirs,
They have to
then
get
we
the legal
can put that together.
yeah, then that legal description will go into the ordinance, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, and then
So
we
they
have
look for that.
to, we'll either have to wait.
Sure.
Meeting, or we'll have to do it.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why we have to talk about it at this meeting is that we have to talk about this at least 3 meetings before we actually bring this in. So, the ordinance. Okay. Any other questions about that? All right. So the next item on the agenda is the addition of certificate pay. So one of the things that, I started talking to the officers about was all the certificates and training that they're doing. And how do we keep you here at the city of Goshen and you don't run off to one of the other cities? So the nice thing is that they do get great training here, and they're getting great training and getting certificates that they're earning. But we're not giving them any incentive to stay here after they get those when they can go to another department and make a lot more money. So my request is that we look at offering certificate pay, that when you get a certificate for training and you've advanced yourself in your career, that we pay you a dollar amount for whatever that certificate is. We do the same thing. I think, Bert, you probably do this for nursing and probably do it for other professions within the hospital or healthcare setting. So, if a nurse goes and gets ACLS certified, that may be an additional $500 a year. Or if you get your CEN, then you're going to get maybe $1,000 or $2,000 for certificate pay. This is similar to that. So we're asking that you guys would consider, and we'll bring it back with some actual numbers, but consider certificate pay for additional training. And I want it because I want to retain these officers, because I'll just be frank, if we don't do something, our new officers especially are going to go somewhere else. Because their pay is, our lowest paid officer is at 46, I think right at 46, and the next lowest is 47,250. And you can go to Fayetteville with their certificates they have and make 58 like that. And they will gladly take them with all those certificates.
That's 23 vacancies right now.
You understand. So I don't want to lose those people that have done all this work and gotten all this great education and advanced themselves already within their career to another department, because we are just not competitive. And if we can get that certificate pay, I think that will help us move forward to being more competitive to keep the newer officers.
So that's what I was going to ask Chief. I mean, there's different levels. Obviously, there's promotion to go to the next level. Field training officers is a great example. Firearm instructors. So is there a list you can bring in? So
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I have it.
Because obviously you don't want all your officers to be firearm instructors. That makes sense, right? Probably not all be field training officers, but some. So I think we should have that knowledge. I didn't see it here, but
I do have that list, and I don't know why it's not in this packet, but I'll get it. We can have it when we come next meeting with the actual numbers. Because the other thing is, I have to look at the budget, and I have to be able to figure out what is it that we are able to pay for this certifications and how we fit that into our budget. So, and I anticipate next meeting we're probably going to look at budget and some amendments to it because of just things that we anticipate.
I do want to see that our current facilities team too, that if they're going down and getting that training for doing animal control, that they also get a little more compensation for that. Because
well, and this is not just, so when I brought this up, it's not just certificate pay for police officers.
looking at
Same is that Lacey's getting trained as you have to tell me the title of it, as a planning commissioner. So she's actually doing the classes to become a planning commissioner. And so that gives her a huge amount of knowledge that she didn't have when she came into that role. But it's the certificate that she will get. Kashana's also looking at getting a certificate. There's a couple different ones she's looking at getting. So once they attain that training and they get that certificate, I would look at getting that certificate paid for them as well. Same thing with the infrastructure facilities management. As they increase their knowledge, gain experience, I would like for them to also have some sort of certificate paid. So, and again, we have to look at numbers and what that looks like in the budget. But
whether we're also doing.
she was agreeable to do that. I think she would have the time to do it. Yeah, especially if we get the 30% higher training. But we have to have somebody to do it. Bring more back next meeting as far as numbers and what things would look like and what the actual certificate, what we would pay for as far as the certification. But yeah, I think that's something we need to start thinking about for retention.
Yeah, and I mean, we have to also look at, are we going to be, is it for future only, or is there anything that has occurred like this year that we want to compensate in for that's occurred already?
I think that we have certificates that have been completed. I know by the police department, and they are anticipating completion by our staff at City Hall that we would look at paying for this year. Yeah. Well, when the certificate paid, they recently, a lot of the officers recently got them, and a lot of the ones that have been on the department have had them for a while. So yeah. All right, so the next item is the street fund capital purchase. So we were looking at our street fund and looking at how much we spent in tree trimming last year and how much we have in the budget this year for tree trimming. And we have noticed that oftentimes there are trees that need to be trimmed throughout the year that we don't have a way to get to without contacting and getting a bid from somebody to come do tree trimming. So we would like to purchase a bucket truck and keep that purchase at a limit, $35,000 to $40,000 on a decent bucket truck at this point. Be able to have for the city, for our city infrastructure facility management team to use to trim trees. We think that's a better utilization of that money for us to be able to utilize that throughout the year than us to pay somebody else to do it and then continue to have to put it in the budget every year to remove those. So I wanted to bring it to you guys. It's budgeted as $45,000 in the street fund this year. So our request would be to use up to $40,000 of that to purchase the bucket truck.
I've seen three things by one going out. You saw a couple days ago. A place that sells used fire trucks and probably see them too.
Yep. I'm on a couple of lists right now.
And I did see that there was a bucket truck.
And I would ultimately like to something closer to 25, but I also don't want to get one that is.
You don't want a piece of junk that's
Yeah. So,
So the capital you have in there now is 45.
yeah, we have it in the budget for 45 for tree trimming. I just would prefer for us to get our own equipment and start with 2 people. They can adequately now at this point use the dump truck that we have, the city truck, and the and the bucket truck to trim trees as they need to be trimmed, and also, you know, I think do a better job because they're going to be out there looking at the trees more regularly. And a lot of those trees, it's not that I still think we would need to have a tree service for like big, large removal of trees that are dangerous for them. I don't want to put them in any danger. But most of our tree trimming is limbs that hang out over the road that become problematic throughout the year. And oftentimes those become problematic at times that we don't need to hire somebody to come in and trim, $12,000 worth of tree trimming. We need someone to go out there that weekend or that week and trim the trees and get it out of the way.
We deal with the excess.
Well, we've got two ways to dispose of it. We've got this pond we need to fill in over here, which will fill that in with debris as far as limbs and tree trunks and things, and then the park. So we can use the park as well. And then when it gets to a point where it's massive, we burn it. So
I have no issue with it.
So you're gonna take the money from the $45,000 that's
in the street fund,
in the street fund for
Right.
tree trimming is what you're,
for tree trimming to purchase a bucket truck to trim trees.
35 or 45. 35,000 of 45,000. That you said.
Well, I would like to have a discrepancy to go up to 40, but I think that my goal is to keep it around 25. But I just don't know what we're going to do.
Not to exceed 40.
Not to exceed 40. Yeah. So we called the municipal league. We talked to them about that. We can use it if we're going to use it for things that are not for street maintenance. We have to basically bill the general fund for the use of it in those areas. So we can do it. Yeah.
I have no issue. I would give you a recommendation.
I just need approval.
I'm going to approve up to not to exceed $40,000 for the street funding capital to the bucket truck.
So we have a motion and a second. Any public comment before we vote? Okay. All those in favor? All right. Motion carries. All right. I think that is it. This is long meeting. Public comment?
Oh, I do.
I got a couple questions.
Okay, go ahead.
I heard from several constituents there was some discussion of limiting fireworks this year. I said I haven't heard anything about that. Has anybody else heard about that?
I haven't heard a word. At least, has anybody come in saying there was a problem?
Okay, I have it. Thank you. Item 45, the updates. I know there's one for the mass council.
So they finished out to Hinesville. Now they're working their way back. So as they get back to Goshen, once it gets back to Anderson's, they will work at night on it. So they were pretty quick getting to Hinesville. Yeah. So yeah, it's good. They did a good job.
There is send a letter to Dollar General about the tips.
It's been done.
What are we asking?
Put it up.
Fix the fence.
It's just laying it down forever. It's part of its own.
Take it down.
I don't know why they just put it as a barrier.
It's supposed to be part of their requirement for screening.
Can't be over 6 foot tall.
I did have one thing. At the last meeting, there was some discussion about Salisbury Road that goes on property. And there was concern because the access potentially to the cemetery was cut off. I just wanted to point out that the cemetery is way, way, way back there on the back of the Hunt property, and the access road that the city abandoned, the part of the road that the city abandoned was a very, very short segment, and that access may get cut off to that cemetery by the Hunts any point in time. didn't know, but I just wanted to clarify that what the city had deeded over to the Hunts was, again, just a short segment of what is a really long road that goes back there that, so the city never had.
And since they closed that section off,
It looked like, I don't know, I didn't see that there was another road there other than the Salisbury Road. Well, but but the city never had ownership of that road.
But it went all the way down to the river.
But the Hunts could have done that at any place on their property and closed off that access on their property.
City road, Salisbury was city road.
I think what Paula was saying is where Salisbury Road ended for the city, it didn't go all the way down there to connect to the cemetery. So Salisbury Road ended before where it connected to the road that went to the cemetery. No. I don't think, no, I think the cemetery, if you look at the map, it's all the way out past where Salisbury's house used to be. Right? Is that what you looked at?
Yeah, that's what it's pretty much right on the river.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's all the way
Or
down
down
by the
on
river.
Richie Creek.
And there used to be a dirt road that went down there.
The city doesn't have a dog in that fight, but they're obligated to allow access to a
Yeah.
cemetery.
Yeah.
Meaning, and I think it says reasonable access. Meaning you may have to call the property owner and they come meet you and unlock the gate, but they are obligated to allow access to the
You
cemetery.
have to,
I don't know.
And I mean, we just get people coming from our house and we kind of get out there.
I would refer them to the Sage Partners group and have them contact Tom at that group. He can get them in touch with Mrs. Hunt. Sage Partners, they're in Rogers. That he works closely with Janelle, so I can get you his contact information.
I talked to Ozarks Electric about the lights out here, and they said they'd be able to fix them. So we'll see. I needed to get the pole numbers and account numbers, and they were going to come out and fix them. They said it wouldn't be a problem.
Great.
So we'll see. I know. We'll see.
Different story they told us.
Colton was nicer.
Really?
Just kidding.
In regard to streetlights, does the city pay?
We do. We pay
So-
a small fee.
So that being said, for every meter, are we paying an independent meter fee for that light?
It's like a per month
I
charge.
think it comes in as a light fee. I mean, I think it
Yeah.
comes in separately.
$5 a month or something.
Yeah. I have to look at the invoices. Kashana can tell us, but
We're being told within subdivision, or at least within ours, that you would have to pay an independent instead of running a continuous line. Those were independent, so I just didn't know if municipalities had an exemption.
ours are a little bit different because they come off of the existing electric line. So it comes in, some of our street lights are on the electric poles themselves.
Right.
And so it just comes down, it drops down and they put a light there. There's only like three, I think, 3 or 4. It's not very many. I mean, outside of, this is built under community building. The one around City Hall is built under City Hall.
But
And
not
then,
on a separate meter.
no, but like the one down here at the corner, that one's on an electric pole. And that comes in as a separate charge.
the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Dallas.
I know.
Finally.
If I didn't misunderstand, you said a little bit ago, getting ready to vote on something.
Annexation.
Annexation. So we're proposing to annex the area just east, west of,
Haverton.
Haverton. So up the hill on Slaughter Mountain and just a little ways past that.
I'm sorry, I didn't really need you to talk then. I thought this was something about, the records. And I don't think you ever had a vote on that. So I'll save
We
my
tabled
remarks until you do about, well, I'll just add to this. I really like to suggest you think really hard on that. I think I saw it there 25 years. I've detected, and I believe there's lots of interest around Goshen history. I ran into that, and I ran into it personally on things that wasn't recorded accurately. Now, if you run out of space, which is going to happen if it hadn't already, I suggest a lot of people are using microfilm. But be really careful what you let out, because news to me, or Max might be so-and-so drowned in Richland Creek 100 years ago today. And we don't want that to happen, so we're going to want to close Tisdale Corridor. Something like that, That's just an example. Well, that's news, and people want to know about that 100 years from now. So I suggest you be real careful about what you tear up, because it's going to be news someday. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Val. Any other public comment?
Earlier, I brought up the question about the light, and you had clarified that it took 150 more people an hour. My actual question, though, to that was, did Minwa say how soon we could have another study done based on the fact that we were so close? Like 150 more people an hour isn't very far off of what that limit is. So how often can we get these studies done? So Jason brought up a really good point, like our crime rate's going up, we're getting more traffic stops, the population is going up, we're constantly increasing. How soon can we get another traffic study done for the light?
Her recommendation to me was that we probably would need to wait at least 2 years before we do another one. She said we could do another one, but that it probably wouldn't show the numbers that we need, just based on what projections were for growth and traffic in this area. So that's what she recommended. But we could do another study, I think, pretty much anytime if we decide we want to do one.
Yeah, she had said that there was you're only allowed to have so many studies ever so often, and depending on the rate on how close we got to qualifying for the light would depend on how far. And I just didn't know if she had mentioned what.
Yeah, she didn't feel like we were going to reach that one anytime soon. She said she recommended that probably in 2 years we might want to do another study.
Okay.
That's right. But we had one done, didn't we, Max, when you were?
We talked about it till we got to the price, and at that time it was $250,000 a year.
No,
So
it was meant traffic study.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah,
You mean the stoplight was $250,000? Just to maintain it.
To maintain.
What we're short.
Yeah,
It's not,
3,600 more cars a day.
Birch, I calculated how many homes we would have to increase and then what that number would be to increase it to that amount. I was like, wow, even with all the additions.
yeah, but Max is right, it's like $300,000 to put it in, but it's $250,000 a year
To maintain it.
to maintain.
I'd just like to say ditto to Dallas's comment. The records that y'all are getting ready to destroy, I know that are of no value to the city of Goshen, that's why you're destroying them. But it could be of value to historical societies and people doing genealogy, doing history. I just think making it available to special collections on campus would make it available to anybody that's doing any kind of research. They will come out and look at what you've got, and they will pick it up and take it. So it's not, there's no cost.
I think that part of the problem is that, and we can check, but I think part of the problem is you cannot release some of those documents. They have to be destroyed if they're not kept.
They will go through that, and they will destroy, or they will say, we can't take that. And they'll take only the things that can be uploaded.
I'm sure Deshauna would be happy to let them come and look. I don't think there's any issues with that.
Honestly, right now, we just want to not have to have so much stuff. We have to go to the historical society, let's do that. I think more fragile things would be like a police records, right? So those have to be kept, for a period of 7 years. And then I think the living records have to be
Destroyed.
just because of hazard. Financial records in the 1980s, maybe that is kind of cool for some people. I'm sure that there's something else that we can do with that. Not.
We purged our office here recently of all our packet documentation.
I understand.
And they came out and picked out
They
everything.
won't get, let me get a.
I think she's totally willing to let whoever come out and through what is able to be taken and give it away. I think our big issue is we have literally just banker boxes full of like old paperwork up there that, A, we don't want it to be a fire hazard. We also don't want to be responsible for anything that is up there that we don't need to be responsible for.
Right,
So,
I get it, but I think it should be available for research purposes.
yeah, we can do
Anything
that.
that can be.
Okay.
Thank you, Cheryl.
I'll
I'll
talk
make
to
a
Sean.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to adjourn. Thank you.